as the All right, welcome to Skull Island. We are live. What show is this? We 13, 14? What are we at?
Should be about 13.
13.
13. Week 13, show 13 for Skull Island. Welcome to everybody out there. Share this out, share this out, share this out.
And right after the 222222, or actually 220222.
Yeah, it was yesterday, huh?
That was
One
yesterday.
of those magical days.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
still
exactly.
like
So-
forward and backwards.
One thing, Norma, you mentioned the portals that opened on the 2nd and closed on the 22nd. I remember you sharing that out
Yeah.
yesterday. So
It's basically
so
this whole week basically it's I'm bad with my pronunciation. I can't basically they're basically magical days, right? It's you can every time you look at it, it's this front ways, it's the same backwards. And when you utilize that magic, the power of numbers, you can enhance whatever manifestations, whatever healing, whatever it is you're trying to do, you can really enhance it that much more utilizing the number magic.
Yeah, because it creates that
Just more
figure eight,
intense.
that spiral. It creates the ever-locking energy that is unending because it's forwards and backwards. It's exactly the same. The mirror image, that's what Norma was saying. So what happens is it closes the network on the energy, so the energy isn't open like any other normal date. It's those energies that are closed because they're that way. No matter how you look at it, it's still the same date. Forward
and
backward.
people were feeling funky last week and everything else. Now my question is that was yesterday. Today, like episode 13, it's the 13th, supposedly an unlucky number and everything else.
Yeah, but that just has to do with the Knights Templars and when they were arrested. That all happened on Friday the 13th in 1307. And if you were unlucky and you were on the list, then you got arrested on that date. That's where the number
Sounds
13 came
familiar. Sounds
Yeah.
familiar to something that's going on in Canada.
on. Yeah, right? Yeah, sound familiar?
Right.
Yeah.
So well, it's in the entire month because the month, the first of the month was the beginning, was Imbolg, which was the halfway point between the two solstices.
Yep.
So it's the mini solstice. That's like a chakra in your knuckle, right? You have the chakra in your elbow and your shoulder and your wrist, and then you have a small minor chakra in your little knuckles. So the midway point is midway to the big winter, spring, summer, winter, right? And in between there's fall, autumn, spring, right? You have all these other times in between. So the energy was already building, first of all, for the last 3 years with all the full moons being super moons and everybody doing these ceremonies on all of the chakra points of the planet. What we're doing literally we're raising the vibration of everybody here, and it's going to get to a seminal point where we're going to pop through like popping a blood blister or something. We're going to go and we're going to move up really fast to where we should have been from for probably 100,000 years now that we've been retarded and stuck in this place. And all of that are signs. This is what we were talking about off air, and it was a continuation really of what I was talking about last night on Ariel's show. That she happened to come on just for to cheer up a friend, and then I popped on and we started playing. And next thing you know, I was talking about that and the spiral and how that's in that information. And Aaron referred that to one of the texts, one of the most complete text that's really clear and not missing a ton of words, and that would be the Hermetic text. And I really would tell anybody to listen to to that, read it, or go to like YouTube where you can listen to it and watch it, and listen to the Hermetic text. Anything where they're talking about Hermes Trismegistus and the Hermetica, pay attention to that. The Book of Truth, which is a scroll from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is also not missing very many words. and it is also very complete. But those messages are slightly different because one is talking about the Jesus character personally, and the other one is talking about the Jesus character, but from a different standpoint, slightly, because the religion was a little bit different than the monotheistic Hebrew religion that the Jesus character came through with that story. So the Hermetic has more of the polytheistic male-female god veneration, not a single male god running the religion. So it's slightly different, but it's still the same story.
Right.
And we were talking about how that is in everything, and that's, it's in everything. It's in every book, every movie. If you're paying attention and somebody hands you even the book I wrote, you'll find that I have that same dynamic that we subconsciously, through the law of attraction, which is a thing, right? The law of the universe and the law of attraction. We're trying to tell a story. So even on a subconscious level, we're channeling this information from our higher selves or our inner self and not realize that we're doing it. So some people are doing this around the world and not even realize it. We're all living in this illusion, not seeing that we're putting it there in front of our face in everything. There isn't anything that you can't. You pick a song on the radio and Aaron and I'll show you how that relates to the spiral of the universe and how that goes back to the same story. Yeah.
Well, it's a 369. It repeats everywhere.
These 7 laws, these 7 principles or laws.
Yes.
You could apply them to your life,
you got
just
the
like you could
Fibonacci sequence that appears everywhere.
That's the same thing.
Exactly.
That's the same thing. The Fibonacci sequence is the right angles of the golden mean ratio. The golden mean ratio is just the arc that goes on the tips. So that's the spiral itself. It's still the same spiral. And it's showing you the difference between the fractal version and the smooth version. That's the yin and the yang.
Okay.
So the sharp edges is the fractal mathematics, and that's the darkness. And then the light is the perfection that is the spiral. But they're both married. One can't happen without the other.
Yeah. Okay. In the details, the devil's in the details, literally.
Yep.
Because the fractals are where you zoom in.
Yes. And that's
and
the spiral does the same thing. It's just that the spiral's not as pretty because it just keeps spiraling inward. But with the fractals, you zoom in this way, and as you do, everything then becomes smaller and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's still there, and it's never ending.
But with the fractals, you can see that spiral. But if you look close enough onto the spiral itself can have fractals on the edges.
Right.
That go on and create their own.
And if you go to one of those edges and you zoom in on it, it's identical to the big one you were at before, and you see there's another little edge. That's the spiral that goes on for infinity on the dark side.
That's the holographic base of this multiverse.
Yes. One up here.
Explained in a nutshell.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And so if you understand that math, you realize that they're both the same. They're just the flip side of the same coin. They can't and don't exist without the other. It's the way it's supposed to be. So this whole dichotomy between good and evil is not. It is not a thing at all. There is no battle between good and evil. There just is good and evil, and they're a necessary thing for us to have happen to us at this particular time only in our expansion of our souls. And once you master that and understand that that's necessary and why, and you move above that to where you can look back down on it, you'll see the perfection that it is, and you won't be angry about evil and what they do, because you realize that everything that they're doing, even though they think that they're doing it to harm good, it's actually there on purpose for them to do what they're doing to aid the whole, the all, the one.
Yeah. Hopefully all evil destructive forces will end up being neutralized or eliminated from the planet.
Yeah, it gets pretty deep. You can go really into it. I mean, really the everything, like the title of everything, all is mind, everything is mental. I mean, it is, and people need to understand that. We can actually, if with our crummy attitudes, all of us have done this, we are actually manifesting a lot of the shit in our lives. Like,
we
are the source of evil.
We're doing it. We're bringing on that vibration in a lot.
Yes, Mike, to answer your question, yes. Yeah, and I think you were making a statement more than a question, right? Yes, we are the source of evil.
And good.
And it's only when we choose not to be that source of evil anymore, when we start moving away from the ego, that the ego starts to wane. You don't need it anymore, because now you're an adolescent. You're almost an adult. So you have reached your adolescence, and that allows you to then become an adult. And once you become an adult, that is when the ego is jettisoned. You no longer need it. Only echoes of it remain, and you completely understand why the ego is there, and you're in control of it now, and you don't need it. And then as you ascend higher from that plane as an adult, then you start becoming an ascended master, or whatever you want to call that. When you get to that place, the ego is completely gone. There is no more ego.
Yeah.
You don't need that in your life, because now your life consists of love.
You don't need the self aggrandizement, because you're getting your joy and pleasure out of helping others be more at peace and calmer.
Well, and you also have to know the opposite, so that you can know what it feels like to be good, and know that it is something completely different than being evil to someone.
Well, yeah. See, the thing is that the original whatever situation, depending on which tale you want to listen to, it was the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. It's not necessarily knowing the difference between the two. It's actually benefiting from doing the bad.
Yes, and that's the beauty of it, that we don't understand when we're in the middle of it. I just watched a video with a rabbi last night, and he summed this up so beautifully. He said, yes, we do have that problem with our ego. Yes, we all have to go through that in this place. But let's not get caught up in that middle place where you're going over and rehashing all of your problems that you have. We all know that that's true. We know that that's there.
Those
are
our personal spirals. Those are personal spirals.
But that's what we weren't created to just fix ourselves right there. We were created to fix the universe itself, because what we're doing here is we're making this place a home, so that the one true creator has a home to go to. You only have a home. You have a house, and you build the house. It's not a home until you have yourself and your family in it. Then it becomes a home.
Yeah.
Right now, God created the universe, but it's not a home. It's a house with no one in it. Then he created us to be in the house, to prepare the house for his coming. But we stopped doing that because we got stuck in the middle place. And there's the rub. That's where the Matrix was taken over and caught us in our most vulnerable point in our existence, when we're 100% doubting our own abilities. And then the Matrix is saying, you need to focus on these abilities. You need to do this. And he's saying, you're right. We do need to do that, but we don't need to get stuck there doing it over and over. We need to acknowledge the problem with the ego and remember the golden, the brass ring. What are we here to do? And that's make this place, prepare this place to be a home for the one true creator. So we need to get past ourselves and realize what we're supposed to do. And we can fix ourselves when we have time. So right now, acknowledge that you have the stuff going on. Do that shadow work, but don't get stuck only doing the shadow work, because the Matrix will have you do it over and over and over and over, and just recycle doing that. Every time you come through in life, you don't get past that point. You get stuck there.
The thing.
Right.
Well, there's like a proper to it, right? You can do the work, but unless you're actually truly going through all of the steps and properly doing the work, letting things go, reprogramming your physiology, reacting to things differently, truly changing your perception. Well, yes, you're going to continue that loop. But to actually go there, identify it, sit with it for a moment, honor it, and then truly go through those steps and get through it. Now, that's the ultimate goal, right?
And all that washes away anyways, because you've acknowledged it. See, you've acknowledged it. You're not stuck on it and obsessed with it. You're saying, okay, I am damaged. We're all damaged. I acknowledge that, and I need to get better. Well, how do I get better? Well, we've told ourselves the truth is there. The truth will set you free. You get better when you acknowledge your love and move closer to the one. So we don't have to fix ourselves 100% right there. We're supposed to acknowledge that and know that we're a work in progress from now on. But our job is to prepare this place for the coming. So we need to make this a home. And how do you do that? You have to love people. So you automatically, like Aaron just said, you fix yourself on the way, because you can't help but do that, because you start becoming caring, loving, ignoring of the ego. And that's fixing you as you're getting closer back to the one. And that's making and preparing this place. And all of that takes place inside of you, in your mind, in your soul.
Of your ego.
Each one of
You
us
know what I mean?
individually.
What's that?
I like to think it is more as reprogramming the ego as opposed to like getting
Because
rid of it.
the
Because
in a
you know what I
small,
mean?
an overinflated ego, or ego thinking you're better than everybody else, or you know what I mean, like that ego, or thinking that you're the only one that's going to be here to, you know, which there's plenty of those out there. I'm going to save the world, and I'm the one to do it. You know, that shit is crazy, batshit crazy.
So is the
You know what I
whole,
mean?
you know,
But
my fault, you know, the whole
but
world
it's
is
all
dying because of whatever, you know, you have your extremes
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, as
Right.
us humans today, as we're living and inhabiting this world, your ego is a necessary thing, right? It's
Yes.
I like to think it's more
Yeah, you have to
reprogramming
have
that
it.
voice as opposed to like
Yeah,
trying
you
to
won't
pull it
grow
off,
without
right?
the ego.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So it's more reprogramming that and hearing that loudest thing being the best thing most of the time, right?
because the ego really is the I am. I mean, it is, you know.
Yeah.
I'm Aaron. I mean, I am part of a much bigger, you know, I like to think of it as a clock, like a big clock, and every little piece works and helps
Yeah.
things move.
Right.
Right. And yeah, really, the ego, I mean, yes, it's good to have those ego deaths.
Yes.
If
People
you're
do it, guys,
feeling
every
like
time
you're a little
yeah.
bit, you know, you start to get to where, you know, you start to be Icarus, you start closer and closer to the sun, thinking, you know, yes, the universe will kind of level you and say, all right. And you need to be able to
Right.
acknowledge that and say, okay, that's where
Right,
I'm in a
right.
mistake, and move in that direction again, or move in a direction that, you know, maybe that ego death changed your direction or your perception.
Right.
So
Being open to that,
Well,
yeah,
and
knowing,
like
understanding
Reese said he truly struggles with his ego fighting him. We all have that. We all go through it 100%. There is no one
Yeah.
who doesn't. I can't say no one because there's probably somebody like Jesus never had an ego. You never heard Jesus going, well, let me tell you what I would do. Yeah,
See,
I'm Jesus Christ. So
But hold
he
on,
never
see-
bragged. He never had an ego. He was very humble his whole
but
life.
see,
right?
there's a reason for that because he didn't have to.
Yeah, because he didn't have to. Correct. So I can't say
It's-
no
it's like-
one, right?
it's
Because
just
there
like
is
whenever
at
we
least
see-
there is at least the Savior.
his main voice gave
If-
him a direction and he followed that direction and he always just did that,
I
right?
mean, think about, for example, we got that the Joe Rogan, right? Y'all know
Right.
him. He was a fighter and everything else and commentator.
Right, MMA
Yep.
fighter, announcer, reality
When
show
you-
host, podcaster.
Exactly. On that reality show, he would be confronted with lots of situations, and there were people that became abusive. They were bullies and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's when he let the beast out. Otherwise, you see him on his podcast, he is completely tranquil, docile. Why?
Yes.
Because he doesn't have to prove
Mhm.
anything to fucking anybody.
Right.
Everybody
Right.
knows
Right.
who he is. Nobody's going to get up in his face, so he's comfortable and let's
Yeah.
be at peace. That's what you get when you don't have to
Yeah.
prove
Yeah.
anything. And so
That's right.
everybody has to build up their ego because they got to prove it to who? To everybody else or
Right.
to yourself?
Right. It's
trying
just
to
like I
prove
said
it.
last night, right?
Right.
I
Right.
said, look,
Right.
I'm either, I don't have the piece of paper that says I'm Merlin, but I have the title. And I don't care if somebody says so, whether you're not a Merlin. Okay, that's fine. I don't need you or your approval. I'm either wise or I'm not wise. I either know what I know or I don't know it.
Yeah.
So if I don't, and then I look stupid if I claim it. So why would I claim it? Only somebody with an egoic mind would be
Yeah.
stupid enough to claim something they're not, and then try to back it up with lies. People see
Right.
through that. If you're
But
truly
wait a
awake,
sec,
you're going to look at me and go, that guy's lying.
Like,
But I'm
like,
not. So you
like
won't do
Prime
it.
Minister Castro up north?
Yeah, like Prime Minister Castro up north with his whole, telling everybody it's okay. There's no problem, man. We're not going to do any damage to you, but I'm going to take your shit. I'm going to get you fired. I'm going to take your bank account from you.
And
I'm
you're going to be
even
in
people
jail
that
for
are trying
10
to help
years.
you. Your family member tries to help you. I'm going to get their bank account too now. That's, that's somebody who has got serious problems. That is a child who's coming from a really big place of fear.
Yeah.
He's scared to death right now that he's going to lose his job. And that's the
He's-
only reason, because because he wants the power that he's taken and he's not going to give it
Lose
back.
his job with the abuse he's done. He's probably going to lose a lot more. We need to eliminate one. Are there any mods in chat?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't see
trying.
that.
I
I'll
don't
get
see
after
the
him too.
three dots right at the moment. You can get it. That'd be awesome.
I
Because
got him.
I'm
You
not
got him. We got him.
seeing,
He's done.
Thank
way
you.
to do it right
Our
now.
Yeah,
stuff
I
is
didn't
not
see that. I wasn't
working.
looking at the chat. I was looking at the camera. And
I know,
before that, I
I'm-
was watching the chat, and then I stopped, and there it was. Thank you, Mike. You were on
I'm-
it, baby.
I'm trying to do 5 things at once here, buddy.
Right,
People are
that's all we
teaching me
can
to multitask. I never believed that was really possible because I like to focus on one thing. All right.
Yeah.
So y'all talk. I'm reading.
Right, I'm doing the same thing. I'm reading what Brenda put up here now. Yes, and now this is going into the elements and
That's true.
everything. This is good. It is true. I'm gonna put this up on the
Well,
screen.
put it on the screen and read it.
Yeah.
All right. there
So
you go.
so everybody in the world,
Yep.
I'm reading with
Yeah.
my everybody in the world, they don't realize it, but the four elements are important to the world: earth, air, fire, water. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And the four corners and the directions is also a very important compass point: north, south, east, and west. Right? That all has to do with the tree of life, 3, 6, and 9. Let me continue with what Brenda was saying here. Right? So these are the things that need to be taken care of. Is these four elements, but she put the word FOR, four, spelling like I do. 4 elements, like there was not a number popped up there, right? A lot of people, I think the 4 elements are a figure of speech. A lot of people do think that it's a figure of speech. That's just like when we say breathe, just breathe. That just sounds like a figure of speech until I
Right,
explain to you
yes.
and have you do the process of actually breathing and thinking about it and focusing on it for 30 seconds,
Yeah.
and then it becomes something completely
Mhm.
different. And
It's
so
not
deep that you
breathing.
go,
It's
what?
personal. It's personal meditation.
Right. So that's
My
the
children
same, and
hate
I
this.
agree with what Brenda's saying here,
Yeah.
because if we don't acknowledge nature and we don't acknowledge every aspect of the nature, there's a reason that the charm of making says all of nature and of space-time. Okay,
Continue
there's a
reading.
reason for that. Anal nathrak uthva spethud. That means
Really?
all that is nature and of time space. Do heed my call, or do hear my intentions.
You
So
did
there's a
that
reason
last week,
for
right?
that. Nature itself is part of the creation, and the charm of making is all of that encompassing. And again, in your mind, your intentions, but you can only create if you're a positive being, because that's the only place you can feel love. If you're negative, you don't feel love, and therefore you're not part of creation anymore. You've separated yourself away
You're
from
part of
the
destruction.
creation.
You're
Yeah.
not creation. You're destruction.
Yeah, and then you become
got those
destruction.
Those
that's all
two
that you have.
wavelengths.
Yep.
They're both waves. They're just going in different directions.
But
And
they're
so
part
when
of the
they
same.
meet, they nullify, and that
Yes.
is the destruction. So, make sure that you're in sync with
Well,
people
yeah,
around
that
you.
comes- yeah.
Otherwise, things come undone.
Yeah. So she
Um,
goes on to say,
Yeah,
right,
the way
they
the
think it's a
society
figure
has
of
gone, we've
speech.
kind of taken
However,
people
the
away
four,
from nature altogether, right?
yes, right. Well, think about that. They have everybody moving into the cities, and they don't want you living in the nature. They want you living in the artificial city that they created that has no land
Right.
that you will step
Yeah.
on except
There's
for the
no way
lawn
to
in your front
ground.
house.
There's
no-
the
yeah.
human
See why
resonance is
people
different.
would think that way. And it's sad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So all of these things have to be put together, which she goes on to say, and
Mhm.
worked. So yes, the elements are like another form of the chakras to the world. See, what we
Yes.
think that the chakras are just the main chakras that go from our base root red to indigo to the purple, and we think that's it. But every joint you have, I just explained that. These are all chakra points. Anything that bends, anything that moves, it has a chakra point in it, and it builds up. People have arthritis. Look at David Icke. He didn't
Acupuncture
crack
kinda
his knuckles
teaches you
and
that,
get
right?
all that
And then
and
it
get all
pressure.
that energy out of the stuck places in his chakras. And the only reason I don't have fingers like that, my doctor says, because I have a habit my whole life of cracking my knuckles. He said, keep doing it. You're relieving the tension that would build up in there, the arthritic tension that would build up in there and make your joints swell up and eventually get distorted. So I continue to crack my knuckles.
Yeah.
My family always told me not to crack my knuckles. It was a bad habit. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you release the stress, the tension.
Sometimes
it
I just
just-
need to.
Like
Oh,
cracking
yeah.
your
Sometimes
back,
you just need to
right?
do it. It's like when you take the little bubble wrap and you pop it. It's doing the same thing with your knuckles, man. You're
Yep.
doing the bubble wrap
Yep.
in your hands,
Now,
your own
I
body.
had a,
It
I
has the
have
same
had
effect on your mind.
I just did it.
The way your
I had
mind
a
hears
friend
it,
of mine-
feels everything.
I had a friend of mine from Chicago that she was, every time I cracked my knuckles, it was a trigger for her because her
Yeah,
brother
yeah.
fell down an elevator shaft and broke all his bones. And that's what it sounded like when his bones broke.
Makes the same sound. Yeah, when you break a
Right.
bone. You ever broke a bone from a chicken or anything else?
So
it
for
has
her,
the
it's
same
put a
sound.
bad meaning to that sound, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. All those triggers are in our own minds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just
Yes,
sounds
yes.
and resonances.
It's how
going
we
out
perceive
into-
that thing. Yeah.
We
Exactly.
load that. Our parents do it to
we
us.
live life through
right?
our own filters, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Right.
it's the way that we are seeing it. When we
How
put
is that-
meaning to
How
something,
is that?
our mind is automatically going to try to find validation for that thing, right? Completely
Exactly.
dismissing things sometimes that might be to the
Yes.
contrary.
Yes, because
So
the
we have
mind
to figure out
listens to
where
the
that
ego.
filter came from and how it was formed, so you understand how that filter is affecting your
Right.
decision processes
Yep.
and your perception.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and then you have to realize that the ego talks to the mind because the ego is part of the mind, and it knows that the mind just
Mhm.
tells you what it's told.
So I'd say
because it's just a
reprogramming that
recorder.
ego mind, right? Yeah.
Right. So the ego
Yep.
gets into the
It's-
mind, and the
It's
mind
it's
tells you to do
reprogramming
stuff that
yourself,
pulls
yeah.
you into the ego.
It's a CPU. We just got to rewrite the programming.
Exactly. That's
But for
exactly
that, you
it.
got to get into the.
I
original
actually,
code.
that I'm, you know what?
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually meditated on this, and I want you guys to understand what Mike just said, and because Norma said this earlier, and I didn't stop and make a point, so I'm going to make a point to give her the credit, because she mentioned this earlier, and it was far more important, but she was still talking in her story, and I thought I'll come back to it, and then forgot until Mike just said it. Okay, I was meditating to the universe. I know this information. What do I do with this? So, okay, I learned how to free myself. I'm almost ready to do that. But how do I help everybody else? And I kept thinking, what can I do to make a difference? And then I was told over and over and over until it got loud enough to where I actually paid attention. Rewrite the beginning. Rewrite the beginning. What does that mean?
When
The
we
beginning of
come
me?
into our physical
The
bodies,
beginning
when
of
we
the
come into
universe?
this line that we're
What
living,
am I
we come in
rewriting?
with
And then
a fresh,
I
brand new
realized,
avatar.
and then I realized that it is just like Mike just said. You have to, what triggered me? Why did I trigger?
Yep.
I have to go back into myself. That this is what
Mhm.
Norma was talking about, and just now saying it's in your ego, it's in
Yeah.
your mind, it's part of you, and you have to go back. And then she
Yep.
was furthering what Mike said. You have to go backwards in time and find out, when did I first put a negative connotation on that thought? Why did I
Yep.
do that?
Yep.
And then you take that, you
Right.
face that fear and get rid of it. You go, no, that's silly. That's a little boy's imagination. That's, or a
Or
little
it
girl,
might-
or,
or it might not
depending
be.
on who
Boy
you
or
are
little girl.
inside. Yeah.
It might not be. It might actually be, that little boy, but he's saying, oh, my grandfather did this, so that's what's supposed to be done. Oh,
Right.
my mother did this, so that's the
Yeah, I was
supposed to be
told
done.
this, or I was
Yep.
shown this, or whatever. So it's
Exactly.
not.
So you
So
see,
it turns
and now
out
you're
that it
looking
wasn't
at
you that did
grandfather,
it.
you're
It
saying,
was an
Yes.
outside
Meanings
influence
come from.
that,
Mhm.
that did it. Tradition.
Yep.
Sometimes that
Once
happens.
we
It's
put a meaning to it.
tradition that we,
It came from- Yep.
that comes from when we first start thinking, and we don't do that when we're infants until we start looking at things and
Right.
people start pointing out things and giving it a concept. Fire truck. And then
Yes.
you go, oh,
Yes.
now you
Yes.
think the word fire truck, and now you're thinking that's what that is.
I'm
Yeah.
So
thinking
now you
red
start thinking,
bells.
and as soon as that happens,
Yeah.
unwittingly,
Yep.
our young parents, our young adults, even when I was in my 20s, I
You're
wasn't nearly as awake as I was. So
making
you're feeding the kid
stories.
thinking it's a good thing, and you're feeding them this conceptual reality, and you're teaching them to look at all of this, which is fake, and then giving it a real thought. This is a real
Yes.
place. You're teaching your children, and we had that happen to us, and the parents before them, and before them, and before them.
Yep.
Luckily for me, I had a father who was very
Yep.
awake, and he was teaching me how to wake up without knowing it. I was talking to my sister today, and she said, our father was teaching us all the stuff you talk about. I said, yeah, when we were kids, but he never said it was teaching us something. He just did it. Like when I would
Right.
go
Well,
with him
because you're
somewhere.
kids, right?
Yeah, well, you're right. I would go with him somewhere, and we'd go to a park, and we'd be riding motorcycles, and we'd pull up, and he'd get out and go and sit on the park bench. He would sit on the table and put his feet on the bench. The man was in his 50s, and he acted like he was a hippie from the 60s, right? He's sitting there smoking a cigarette, and I would sit down, and I'd start trying to talk to him, and he'd go, shh, just look around and watch everyone, right? And I would go, oh, okay. And then I would watch, and as soon as you do that, after the first 30 seconds, you are not thinking anymore, because now you're just being an observer. And that's what we're trying to achieve through meditation, is to become that place. My father was showing me, he was
Coming
doing
back
it
full
with
circle.
me,
Beautiful.
and he was showing me this my whole life. And he would say things to me every now and then. He would say, you don't understand this right now, but one day you will. And I realized he was saying, I'm giving you the tools. You don't understand them, but you're going to need this later.
Mhm.
He was teaching me
Right.
everything
Right.
that I know in
Because
the time
he
that I
understood.
had him.
He
and everything he
understood the
did.
programming, and he was
Yeah.
trying to
Countermand
direct
the other
and
programming. Yeah.
actually program because he understood it. He
Yes.
was deep and
Yep.
profound enough to actually go, at this moment, I'm going to be teaching this infant.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
this
you put your
child-
own meanings and have
Yes.
And
yours.
he
Respect
doesn't
on reality.
understand it right
Yeah.
now. He will later, but he doesn't understand it now. But he needs this now.
If he remembers, that's another point.
If
Norma,
you
you
look,
were wanting to say? Sorry.
are you talking to me or are you talking to Norma?
No, she kept trying to say something.
Yeah,
I
and then she ran off.
voice.
So I was like, yeah,
Well,
there
it's
she is.
basically just he gave you that freedom, right, to put your own meanings to things. He kind of just
Right.
gave you an example, how to kind of do things, and it allowed you to form your own
Right. So it was through
meanings,
osmosis. I was
right?
unaware that I was
And
being
to this
taught
day,
because
many
he
of us
didn't
have
tell
that
me,
problem. Was we put
but
our
he
hands
knew
on
that I
people's
would
memories,
recognize it
and
later. Yeah. Isn't that badass?
right,
Different people process it in
right,
different ways and
That
at
is
different
badass.
times.
Yeah.
Sometimes
right,
it's
right.
immediate.
So
Yep.
then I found that I was doing the same thing with my stepson. Even though I wasn't fully awake, I was repeating what my father was teaching me, knowing that there was some good in it. And
Yep.
then when I woke up, I went, oh my God, I became my father and
Yep.
didn't even know it. I wonder if he knew it when he was doing it. He had
But
to have
see,
known it when he was doing it. Maybe not. I guess it doesn't matter.
or
It
he
just
was doing
happened.
something that his grandfather taught
Right,
him. And so
right.
it's those
Right.
good behaviors that we propagate, and you don't understand why it's good, but you understand the programming and you go
Yes.
after it. Why? Because you
Right.
trust the
Right.
source.
Yeah.
Okay. If you get some kind of idea from an uncle that you had, well, look at your uncle now. What kind of respect or idea do you have of him? And then what kind of concept or the weight of the concept that he added to your subconscious? And then look at your aunt or your grandfather or something and go, oh, they taught me that. And I know that him, after all these years, is, a good guy. So you add more weight to the things that they programmed into your subconscious. And
Right.
whenever you consciously do that, you subconsciously change those weight variants that make the decision-making process more fluid. Because the subconscious is what processes that and just
Right.
feeds the information to the consciousness. Goes, oh, I made a decision. No, it was done way before
It
you
was
even.
done way before that. Your brain just caught up to think it. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I tell people that too. One of the things I tell
Yep.
people to recognize as you're
Well, your
starting to wake up
consciousness
is that you
basically
will
just like your
recognize.
floppy disk or whatever memory thing you want to put into it, right? It holds on to everything, but like pull up what you ask for, what has a meaning to it.
It's a database, and everything was
Yeah.
stored and has some kind of meaning and reference directed towards it. Subconsciously, consciously, in all those different factors, you have some kind of meaning associated to it. You'll remember
Right. And
smells,
if
you'll
you pay
remember emotion.
attention, if you pay attention enough to your thought process and you start focusing on when the thought came in, once you start to wake up, one of the signs that you're starting to wake up, and some of you may have already gotten into this and not know it and not realize what is happening to you. When you get to that place where you're if you listen to your own memory and you hear the thoughts and when they came in, you say to yourself, what provoked that thought? And then if you think about the thought, and this is what what Ross started the very first channeling episode with Dawn when he said, "Imagine you're a thought, and imagine you're thinking that thought, and that thought came from the Creator and is the Creator, and you are that thought." Do you understand? So what I'm saying is, if you listen to your thoughts and you say, "Where did this thought originate?" and you focus on that. When you start hearing where it originates, you realize that just like Mike said, before your mind thought it, the entire concept of that thought was higher outside of your mind, and it happens a millisecond before your brain interprets it into words that you could say out loud to someone else. When you're aware
Maxwell,
of that consciousness in that place originating the thought, that is where you are when you're meditating or when you're doing that exercise that I showed you where you're breathing and you're not thinking about anything but your breath, and you become that witnesser. You become that objective reality.
you get back to your core.
You get back to your core. That's right. So
And so I think it's more about, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was about to say, I just think it's more about finding your state more so than your thought, right?
Well,
'Cause
yes,
in a sense,
that's what I meant, truly.
Yeah.
But
The
most
state
people would
of
understand it
yourself,
as
right?
thought, but I agree with you 100%.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people do put thoughts to their state of being, right?
Yeah.
Like, or feelings or
Well,
emotions
the
or whatever.
secret is to get out of that, right? Is
Right.
to get out of that. And so I agree with you.
Yes.
That's why keep going, please.
Yeah. Well, I think, understanding and recognizing the state of yourself, right? You're not going to tell yourself when you wake up that, hey, in 30 minutes, I'm going to get angry, right?
Right.
It's about recognizing the state in which you're in, the physiology, and then understanding your reality.
And not allowing your personal and internal space to be affected and influenced directly by outsiders.
Right.
If you feel like strange sensation, like, how a lot of people just say, I don't know, I just feel just off, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's try to take that off feeling. Why is it off? What is it that makes me feel like it's not working with me? Okay. And B, when was the first time I decided that this feeling means I'm off? Right?
Sometimes it's a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
It-
But yeah, and,
sometimes
and that's
it
your
just
that's your
plays a big
instinct.
part.
That's
It
your
does.
insides.
But see,
That's your
anything can make
chakras.
you. But anything can
Yeah.
make you irritable, or your hormone imbalances that everybody's got
Yep.
them. I mean, raging hormones through the teenage years. Everybody knows what adolescents are like. I mean,
Right.
they're a
Yep.
joy to be around. Let me tell you.
Mhm.
But and so those things of the body affect the state of our
Yes.
spirit, and the state of our
Yes,
spirit
but see,
defines our perception of consciousness and our
yes,
conscious ideas and decisions.
yes.
Go ahead, Norm.
And so if you can recognize your state, if you can actually understand your physiology, your body, your gift, your temple, your universe, if you understand how it works. And I woke up and probability, if I don't do anything right now, is I'm going to be irritable and pissed off in about 30 minutes, right?
Why?
But I'm understanding my body's going, oh, you know what? I need a little magnesium right now. Maybe a potassium. Let me go eat a banana.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? When you understand your state and your physiology, who you are, your human being, that's why it's so important to you, because it all's kind of connected, right? We're living this harmonious balance between mind, body, and spirit. So, but the more you understand your physiology and those things that actually do assist you, there is a natural remedy for everything, right?
Yeah.
Medications
Yes.
help people there, and there's many people that need them. Don't get me wrong. But should they have understood their physiology and kind of how things were working and sparking in themselves,
Yes.
they could have probably found a more natural.
Well, that's where it came
assistant,
from.
right?
The
Well, you know what?
chemistry
Check
of
this out. I
pharmacology
just
comes from
got
nature.
this. I just got this from Alex Coolier. Okay, and I was unaware of this, but I knew that there was some of this happening. There was a time on this earth where our bodies created our own vitamin C. And
Yes.
somebody
Mhm.
changed that in our DNA to turn it off. That was when we started living a lot less. Okay. So when people when people, just like Norma's saying, when they recognize their physiology and their body, their temple that they have, and that it's out of whack, if you work on the temple and find those things about yourself that's lacking, that will make your vibration of your physical body vibrate the proper way that it's supposed to, and you get the right nutrients in your body and all the bad
be in a
nutrients
better
not in your
spirit.
body then will heal itself and become
Yep.
very, very much stronger than you think it is now, and more resilient, because it'll get tired. There won't be anything to fight off, because you're not constantly throwing in weaponized weed and sugar and stuff that's just terrible for you. You know that hamburger from McDonald's is all fat, grease, and salt, monosodium glutamate. Why am I eating it? Because I'm addicted to the salt and the fat and the grease. So you
Actually,
eat the
you're
bad
addicted to
thing.
the salt and fat and grease from 150 million years ago, because that's
Right,
what
but the
base
problem is
humans
that they're
needed. That's the
weaponizing the
lizard
meat
brain.
now
Oh, right.
with
Yes.
steroids, and
Many
they've made this
meats aren't
stuff
even
so
meats,
so
at
it's
least
natural
not
for you. That's your natural state to be the carnivore. But the problem is the meat you're eating is not like meat that's out there that's fresh,
Not really.
because they've
It's not,
taken that
yeah.
and weaponized that meat, whatever that
Exactly.
protein is. They're
Because it's
weaponizing it.
easier, it's faster. You can eat as much as you want, and it
Yeah.
costs relatively little effort versus
We are
going
all
out
just
there
prisoners
hunting.
here of our
That's why
own
I've always done it.
device.
Fast
Well,
and
Imagine
cheap.
going out
yeah, the
there
system is
hunting
kind of-
something, cleaning it, then cutting it, then gutting it, and then cooking
Dressing
it.
Going through the
Yeah,
whole
and-
prop, yeah.
yep.
It's
whole
a
process.
lot of fucking work,
Yeah.
and we just drive up to a restaurant. We're irritated if the food didn't come out in 30 minutes.
Right.
Yep.
So the
Right.
difference
And
that you
yeah,
have
that's
is,
just
yeah,
it.
we're pissed off. How
Society's
come I
kind
didn't
of
get my
taken
food in
us
5
further
minutes?
from the way
Right?
things actually work.
And so,
The-
and the problem with that
Sugar's
is
on
that
everything.
because it was
Anything.
made by a machine, there is no life in it.
That too.
There was no love
Yeah,
put
well,
into
yeah.
it. They
It's been
walked up
broken
to the
down.
cow and they blocked its head
We were
into a
having this
thing, and they walked
conversation
up and went
yesterday.
pow, and they shot the cow
Right.
so it died suddenly in shock, which taints the meat. Then they take that, they just chop it up, grind it up, process it, get it ready to go, freeze it, do whatever it needs to do, get it out as quickly
It's
as
an
you can.
industrial
So-
process, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
an industrial
Yeah.
product.
So
They
that
don't
whole
know that-
thing,
yeah.
that whole thing has no life in it. There was no respect for the animal. There was no thanking the animal for donating its meat. There was none of that veneration of a human
Right.
mind thinking that it was
All
a
the
car.
Native Americans
It was
did that.
just something we built, put it together and get it out, mass produce it. Go,
Yes.
hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
take the
then that's just it.
strongest, you
Society's
always
put
take the weak.
sugar on just about every single thing,
Everything.
right? Like there's
Yeah.
sugar in just about any food that you eat. Now, I'm not against sugar; can
And
be good
salt.
and it can work very much
And
for
Natural sugars.
and that, you know what I mean? But that's just it.
Yeah.
We've gotten to this point where everything's got sugar on it, so we need that quick fix.
But
We need that
you,
quick.
you, but you
So
have to
our fruits
understand
and our
is why
vegetables and our foods
you
don't
have to
seem to
understand
work
why
anymore
that sugar is
is-
there. You
Yeah.
have to understand why that sugar is there, why that salt is there, why that grease and oil is there.
Yeah.
Because the marketers know that that's our lizard brain, and that's where your
Yep.
base instinct is going to go to. That is
Yep.
your comfort food. That is your survival food.
Yep.
So the sweeter it is, the longer you'll survive. The
Mhm.
greasier it is, the more energy you'll have to make it through the next 3 days, because you're not going to eat anything until the next hunt. Okay, that
Right.
lizard brain, that elemental caveman brain is what feeds many people, and the marketers
Yep.
know this. And so they add, for
Yep.
example, I was listening to a nutritionist because I was trying to figure out what kinds of specific vegetables or specific to be able to help. And at the end of the thing, he said, you know what? The most simple thing that you can do to improve your health is to make your own food, because you're not
Yep.
going
Yeah.
to put too much
Absolutely.
salt in there. You're not going to
Right.
put too much sugar in there. You're not going
Right.
to mix all those different preservatives and everything
Right,
else to
right.
be able to keep it on a shelf for 30
Mhm.
days until it gets
Exactly.
to you. You're
Yeah.
going to make it, and you're going to be putting your love into it. That's why the Italians went the anti-fast food route, because
Yeah.
they recognized the women had the love of spending 8 hours a day in the kitchen preparing food for their
The energy
family
level
to.
is so
Yes.
much different, guys, when you eat a home cooked meal as opposed
Oh,
to
Oh,
even
yeah.
one in a restaurant. When you spend that time, like Mike is saying, and those like Brenda was a hunter. I grew up with a hunting family, hunting the whole nines, fishing, hunting, eating all that stuff my whole life. And you don't realize until you don't eat that stuff, where you don't do those things, where you're not putting that energy into it. Like, my grandmother, my father, everybody in my family cooked. And when you watch them cook, they were wizards, and they were in there with love and magic, and they were making
Right?
something
For
Alchemist.
hours
I
and
know.
hours.
and it
just getting
tastes
done
so
right,
good,
right?
but you can also
they had-
cook with none
this
of that
is-
and your food tastes like shit. But if
Why?
you have
Because
that
they had
put
a
in the
vision.
time,
They had a vision of what they
Yes.
wanted their family to be ingesting. Oh, I remember this. My grandson loved that recipe, and my cousin, my nephew also liked that recipe, and I think that's a good idea. And but last time I put in too much salt, so I'm going to put a pinch in less
Yep.
this
Over
time.
time, they
And
Yep.
got
they're
it. They perfected
and
it.
they're
Yep.
they're thinking
No, my
about
grandma's
but they
potato
don't
salad got
like
so
the
cheesy.
onions. I got to
Potatoes.
chop
I
them
still
big so he can
can't
pull them
stand
out. But I got to make sure that the carrots are diced up or sliced
Yes.
up or thinly sliced.
Yeah.
I've been
depending
doing
on
that with my
what.
dogs too lately. I think
So that's
like, just
who
do it
your
this way.
family and friends, who you're preparing. You're thinking about who you're preparing it for,
Yeah.
right?
and that's that love you put into it. That's
Yep.
what feeds their soul while they're eating.
Well, and then Ariel said, but it's a lot of work, a lot of effort to do that
Yeah.
day in and day out. Sure, it is. But here's the thing: the payoff in the long run is like 250,000 times better than not doing it. And you can do like I do. I make more food than we're going to eat, so that we have
Yes. And you freeze
leftovers.
them. Yep.
And
And
you
li-
can
eat
freeze
leftovers,
stuff, and then
right?
you can
Yep.
also combine a couple of leftover dishes.
Mhm.
And
Like,
if you don't
we
have
had
one,
peas on
get your
Monday, we had carrots on Tuesday, and broccoli on Wednesday, and I have all that left over. Now we mix them together for Thursday and have mixed
There you go.
vegetables.
And
Yep.
have you guys ever used an Instapot, dude? I'm in love with that thing
Oh,
No,
because
what is that?
oh my god, it's fabulous, bro.
I'm admitting
Like,
I'm still not very good at it.
because it has
I'm
a
like
saute mode. It's like
old-fashioned.
a
I
big
need to-
rice cooker, but it's just basically a pressure
oh,
cooker.
it's
Oh,
slow
I know what you're
cooks
talking about. I've
everything.
seen
It's
them. I don't
slow
have
man,
one,
cooks
but
it
I've
slow
seen
cooks
one.
it, but slow cooks it
Yeah.
But
fast.
quickly. But
Yeah.
If
quickly.
you prepare it
Yeah.
right and saute it right first,
Oh yeah,
Right.
and then put it in like some liquid, it's
that's
basically
like
like
those crock
braising.
pots, isn't it?
It's like
Oh,
that.
dude,
It's a new
it's
version of it. They've taken a crock pot and a pressure cooker, and they put
Yeah.
them together with
Yes.
like a heat induction
Okay.
cooker. So it's
So they
all
put
it's
all
like
the
all that
technologies
encompassed.
together.
It
So
really
yeah,
is.
so it's like the
phenomenal.
toaster
And
I've
oven,
not made a great
the
meal
toaster
yet,
oven, the
but-
crock pot, and the pressure cooker all in one.
I use my pressure cooker all the time for
Yeah.
either the beans or the steak. You get meat
Yeah.
and you make the stew in
Yeah.
there. I never did that before. My grandma used to spend 5 hours in the oven, basting it over and
Yeah.
over while it was doing it. And now we get it in 45 minutes because we
Right.
use science. It's pressure cooker, right?
Mhm.
Now to have that with an electric inductor under, and to have the crock pot to
Oh,
where
it's
it's
awesome.
actually slow cooked and everything
Yeah.
just comes in
Yes,
and drip.
all the way thoroughly,
It
perfectly well.
does a lot of
seasoned.
things
Oh,
right
I'm
away,
getting
dude.
hungry. Y'all quit.
I
You
know.
got,
mean,
let's
I was
Just
thinking
like
the
talk
you.
about
same thing,
something
Mike.
else.
I was thinking my
I cooked
stomach,
some ribs the
ring
other
the bell,
day.
feed the dog, right? As we were talking about food, my stomach just went, hey, and at the same time you went, oh man, I'm getting hungry.
I
Stop
cooked
that.
some baby
Guess
back
what?
ribs the
I'm
other day,
not
country
thinking
style.
about Taco. I'm not thinking about Taco Bell. I'm actually.
But you know what?
thinking
Here's
about,
let me go real quick before Aaron, before you get going. I want to tell you guys out there. Hi, Julie. She just said hi. Hi to all you guys that
Hello,
are
everybody.
commenting.
Julie.
Please share this out. But I wanted to say this, and this is what I said to my sister today, and it's true, right? You know that you are enjoying, like Ann said, loving the cooking when if you have, here's like, you might be a redneck, if you have pictures on your cell phone of shit you've cooked.
I've done
You
videos.
are a foodie. You're a foodie. You're
Yeah.
a redneck. You're a foodie because you're proud of it. You put love into it, and you took a picture of what you made.
I think
I
the
have
thing that I
when
dislike the
when
most
my
about
when
being
my
in the kitchen is
niece's
how much
wife
it
comes over, her and I swap pictures all the time. Check it out. Check it out. We get our food pouring out, and we start showing pictures of the shit that we cooked. Right. So that's when you know that you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Once
what
at
Facebook
first
is
it becomes
for, is
kind of
for
a
your lunch
tool,
pics.
right? It's kind of a pain in the ass. But when you realize the energy difference, and you will realize it very
Yeah.
quickly the first time you
Oh,
make
I
something.
never
Yes,
had my
it's a
dogs
big
beg
difference.
or
Yeah.
like, stand at the door begging and whining for their food before. This is all new, right? Now they know when it's mealtime. They're like, okay. And it doesn't matter if I'm going to get it. He knows I'm going to get it. I just picked up I cannot get it to him fast enough. Right.
Right.
And that's it. That's been a new thing since I started making their
That's
food.
Pavlovian. But that's Pavlovian. Because
Yeah.
help me out here, Leo. Do you remember?
That's what I just said. Ring
year
the
of
bell, feed the dog.
I've lost
Pavlovian.
dog.
Exactly. No, but one of the thing about that is that they noticed after a while, when they rang the bell, they started salivating.
Yes.
Whereas before, they only salivated when they smelled the food and they said,
Right.
"Ooh, I'm going to eat," and it stimulates.
Mhm.
But when they got
But
when the bell
Pavlov's
rang,
dogs-
the dogs realized that
Yeah.
the next thing comes the food.
Food's
So
coming. They
that was the
already
trigger.
start to drip.
But they do that to
See,
us.
yeah.
Is the point? They do that to us
Yeah,
on
it's
television.
didn't-
terrible
they did
what
that
they
before.
do.
Food.
Yes, they
Right?
do.
They put that
They do.
food right in
Trust
front of
me.
your face and they
Why-
make it
why
look
is it-
beautiful.
why
And then
is
you
it
go
at
and
7
order it
o'clock
and
you
it's
got-
crap compared to the picture on television,
Yeah.
right?
Why do you think you're watching TV at 7 o'clock and the only thing coming on are pizza commercials and restaurant ads and
Right,
everything else?
right.
They know
want
you're
to-
hungry.
Yeah.
Go get
No,
some
yeah.
food.
It's time to eat.
I usually see those most of the time. I see them after I ate, so I'm like,
Because you eat
they
early.
must, yeah, they're trying to get us to like
yeah, where
gorge,
were you
man.
a minute ago?
I
I
was
might have
after
got Taco
dinner.
Bell, right? Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know what? The
So
truth
I hate
is,
it when it's not after dinner, when you're really hungry.
Right.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It
You're
is
like,
terrible.
oh, God. And then you're like, yeah, you get that craving and rush. To
I
that.
surf. As soon as
certain
commercials
place.
come on, I open up the channel changer and I open up the guide and I start looking, so I don't see the shit on the television. I'm looking
Well,
for something
see,
else to
the,
watch.
the only thing I remember from ads is from 25 years ago. I will now be half my life in another fucking, actually half my life here. Really bizarre whenever I think about it. Anyway, the difference was that I haven't even watched TV in at least 10 years. Everything's on YouTube or
Yeah.
Rumble or BitChute
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and I get all my shit from there. I mean, I haven't watched the Super Bowl in a while because I just got away from that
That's
stuff.
6 years.
So I haven't, and whenever you get away from that programming,
Yeah.
it's kind of wonderful because
Oh,
like
you,
Mark
you
was
mind.
recognize it immediately when
Free your
you,
mind from
when you
inner
do kind of
slavery.
glimpse it, right? You're going, whoa.
Well, actually, yeah, because you got, for example, Marv that was talking about people complaining him pushing the products that he has on his channel, and he spends like
Right.
6 minutes on a 2-hour broadcast. I remember when I was a kid actually timing the programs because it was a 30-minute program, right? And I'd time it was 2.5 minutes of ads in the middle, and then it was 7 minutes of programming right between. Then you have another 30 seconds or a minute and a half break. Then you'd have another 7 minutes. Okay, or 6 minutes because they'd reduce it, and then you'd have another 3-4 minutes of ads. Then you'd have two or 4 or 5
Yeah.
minutes of thing. Then you'd have another
Yeah.
2 minutes of ads. When you added up, half the fucking program was ads, and you
Yes.
were wasting
Yep.
your time being programmed on what you prefer to buy. I mean, I love Levi's and Nikes. Why? Because that's what was on TV when I was a teenager. So
Yeah.
the programming, right fucking
Yeah.
there.
Yep. I'm gonna
It's
step
in your
out for a
face.
minute.
See, yeah. And that's, I mean, yeah, that's just it. The programming is deep. And when you don't, and I mean, don't get me wrong, you still get it on your internet channels or,
Yeah, but we
things that you
need
watch
that.
on
That's
there.
what
But
everybody's making their money off of. Everybody's
And
making their
that's
money
just
on
it.
being able to
You know what I mean?
market
Yeah.
directly to the individual in the best way possible. They
Yes.
want
Yeah.
to get into
Yes.
your mind, read your mind, and say, "Oh, he was thinking about this book. Let's send it to him and charge his a credit card automatically."
right.
It's easier
Right.
for you, but
We'll do it nice and easy for him. So he doesn't even have to think about it. Right.
just scan your barcode and you're all good.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they're showing that for people like to get DoorDash or whatever those things are that deliver, you can now just scan the barcode on television.
Yeah.
They'll fucking deliver it.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's some convenience to this thing, but every time we've gotten more
It will be
convenient,
convenient.
we
And
give
it's
up
always good.
we give up something else, right? Like
that's
you
right.
gotta
That's
be
exactly
aware
right.
of what
I
it
mean,
is you're giving
they
up
encourage you,
for that
right?
convenience.
I didn't want to get the remote control that was the speak one. And then I said, well, you know what? Maybe I'll get it. That fucking thing, pardon my American, that thing, every time I use my fingers instead of hitting the button to talk to it, it tells me next time, hit the button and talk to the machine. And I'm like, why are you so wanting me to be on this kick of not using my fingers to change the channels? It was bad enough when I was a kid. We used to have to get up and actually walk, God forbid, walk the steps to the television and stand there and go click.
Right.
No, I don't want to watch that channel.
I
Click.
don't want to watch that one.
No, I don't want to click.
No,
And then
God,
you find the channel you want to watch and you walk back over and sit down.
Right, but you just stood for a good 10 minutes and then you found your entertainment. And you know what I mean? Like,
What,
seriously.
10 minutes? I'd be on DirecTV flipping through for 15, 20 minutes. By the time I found a show I wanted to watch, it was almost over.
So
I mean,
imagine if you were a kid standing there, change the channel.
That's why I watch. This is what I do. When I was a kid, my uncle used to take out the TV guide and he would underline or circle the shows that he wanted to watch all week long. And so he remembered the plan for it, right?
When everybody wanted to know what was on TV, they asked me. I memorized the TV guide. I knew, oh, no, put it on Channel 4 because that's going to be Archie Bunker.
Right. Well, that's because back then we had to do that because we didn't have the stuff there to. So we used our minds, our own, to remember when everything was on. We knew what our telephone number was.
I had more than 20 numbers in my mind that I knew that I could call at any moment if I got to a payphone. Now I can't. I barely remember my own fucking number.
Right. Because we've externalized that to another ego.
So does that make us more
take
stupid?
Control of our thought
because
process.
that meaning no longer is what we're referencing, right? We put a new meaning to that thing.
Exactly.
And so, but that's still there. That initial, we never cleared out that initial meaning. So it's there all the time. It's prominent.
The problem is with this modern generation, Norma, is that, for example, in the hunting thing, for example, they said, "Oh, you shouldn't be cruel to animals. You know, we shouldn't do the factory farming. You know, you can go down to your grocery store and get meat there. It's a lot easier." And it's like,
well, see,
do you understand where this fucking comes from?
Right.
Do you understand the point?
Meat you pick it up was a bullet put to its head. It had no chance to survive.
Right.
It had no chance to survive. It was not warned that it was going to be. It didn't know that it was livestock. And they line them all up, and they put a fucking bullet in a 22 shell in every little cap. They close it down. They hit one button, and it kills a whole fucking 30 feet of beef or pork or whatever it is.
Well,
shoots them right in the back of the head, right into their skull. They drop dead. They're hanging by their throat. They go over and they fucking open it up. Pull them down, grab them with a fucking.
They've taken like everything
and carry it over and put it on a slab, and then they start cutting it with bandsaws.
Even us humans have become numbers.
Give me a minute, Leo. Hold on.
Sorry.
I translated a couple of months ago the manual for a slaughterhouse here in Brazil. Okay, so I had to go through all the gory fucking details from when the cows get there to how the UPC codes are put on each package before they're shipped out to the customer. The entire fucking process was in that manual, and I had to go through it bit by fucking bit. It was the most heart fucking wrenching translation that I've ever had to do, but it gave me an insight to the different types of meats that they make between the kosher and the halal and the different ways. And it's not putting a bullet back in the brain. That's a waste of a bullet. What they do is they line up the cow. They got soft music. The cow is relaxed. You know, they put this thing on its head and it doesn't know what's going on. And then in an instant, boom, it just knocks them out. They're unconscious. And while it's unconscious, they do the whole ISIS thing, right? And they let it drain out, which means the muscles didn't tense up beforehand, so the meat is more tender. But it's also more tender because it's shot up with hormones and volume enhancers and fats and everything else. So it's going to be tender no matter fucking what, unless they just hacked it in the middle of the wild. But sometimes that's good meat because, like Joe Rogan says, it's alive. Because it was running, it was feeding, it was living in life. And
even I mean, milk cows, many of these farms, they take the babies away like almost immediately. And don't tell me these cows aren't.
They will not give milk if they don't have it. My grandma made.
They have to have a baby around to.
They have to have a baby, otherwise they won't produce milk.
Yeah. But on these bigger farms, they take baby away. You know what I mean? And they allot it so much, and it's.
Well, then they have one baby that goes around and sucks all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have to be suckled, otherwise they don't produce the milk. And so but what happens
It's
is
the
they
same
get to a
thing with
certain
humans.
size.
If a woman has a child, then she produces milk, and that she keeps producing milk until she takes that child off of her teat, until she no longer is giving that child her
She'll
milk.
stop producing because it's not needed.
And it takes a minute after
Midwives,
that too.
midwives would be in their 40s and 50s and still be fertile because they would be giving milk to the children in the town they lived in or the community they lived in, helping the mother. So they would be providing milk, and so because of that, their mammary glands would continue.
Had
to
I been
make
in a
milk.
community like that, I tell you, because my glands were working right up until I went into menopause a few years back. So
Yeah, see, yeah,
you know, I had a doctor
remember,
test it, try to figure out what the fuck.
growing up on the farm,
Just
the comments that's on the screen
your body
right now,
turned on that goddess mode and didn't turn it off.
Right.
Yeah,
I was gonna reference a comment that was on there because I remember the smell of the kitchen when my grandma was plucking.
yeah. I was going to put that up. Where's that here? Yeah, and he's referring to Julie when she said we killed and processed our chickens. My
on the
job
farm.
was
We
plucking.
did that.
I hated the smell.
It fucking stunk.
You know what? I never had to. I never had to
I
do
could only
that.
eat dinner. I
Grandma
couldn't eat
did
the
all
fried
that.
chicken when she made it.
Yeah, grandma did all that. I never had to pluck, but I don't pluck anyways.
No, I
take
saw
the skin off. I just skin the chicken and don't eat the skin these days, so you don't have to pluck the feathers off. It makes it easier because you know how plucking, you got to get that temperature up to whatever it is, 160 degrees, and then it smells, and then you got to pick it all. And that's just you can just take the chicken, cut its head off.
Well, even just clean it out.
No, but still, I had to hold the fucking chicken down while the axe actually chopped it, and then you let the body run around until it's done and let it drain. Then you
my
start
grandmother would make us chase the chickens and get one and hand it to her, and then she'd grab it and just break its neck off, and then she'd drop it and laugh at us while the chicken was running around for another 5 minutes or so. And we're chasing the chicken with the head dragging. You know?
They're just running around, literally a chicken with its head chopped off. Their body runs around without. But it's like most people; they're running around without even thinking.
Yes. Their physiology, their subconsciousness.
Why everybody's running around like chickens with their head chopped off.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, do you
because
see
they're not
the
thinking,
scenes?
they're not in any way in control of their faculties, and your body is on autopilot, and it's doing what the flow of this particular matrix is telling you, and that's what
you're programmed to do.
Yeah, what you're programmed.
That's why I say, knowing and understanding your body and your physiology and where and how it.
Great analogy.
You know what I mean?
Mike,
really understanding that is.
And that's the truth of it. We're all running around. That's how we start out. We're running around with like a chicken with our head cut off until we realize that. And once you start, then that's what Mike was referring to earlier with the fruit of knowledge. The knowledge itself tells you, wait, something else is going on here. And that's when you start breaking your conditioning. And that's because you have accepted knowledge into your life. And that is the only way that gets into your life is through love. But you don't realize that in the beginning. You realize that the knowledge is there and you go, what is this? This is different than everything else. And that's when you start going down that path. The second you start asking questions of yourself or of your reality is the last day of you being stuck in that reality and the first day of you becoming unstuck. So to like earlier when someone made a comment, I think it was Reese did, when he said he struggles with his ego, it's because you're listening to it. It's trying to keep you from not. Because its job is to keep you in that anti-place.
Yeah, it's going with what it remembers, right? That first initial, I mean, we're born into these brand new avatars each time. So that this is why this lifetime is so important for you and understanding your physiology and your human, right? So even though everything might be there, really, until you start to understand how this human is working, I mean,
you can't figure anything else out. You got to figure yourself out first.
You're going to your ego is going to constantly try to fight to keep this particular meaning, right? Because no, wait, that's the way it was. This is the way it's been. This is the way it was. And it's going to fight you on it.
I wanted to address the nutrition factor because we're looking at that, infinity type thing. You got on one side and on the other.
Nutrition is
why? Because your nutrition makes up your chemical construct of your body.
Yes, we are a neurological machine.
Which affects the way that you process things. For example, your DNA will activate depending on the pH in the body. But the pH in your body is also affected by your mindset. Okay, so how your mind is almost as important as the nutrition. So sometimes when we're out of the nutrition and our spirit is out of whack, we still need to use that mental control of going, okay, I'm out of whack.
The key is to balance the mind and the body and the spirit, all three, to become a totality. The mind, body, spirit, totality.
How do you
get being. There? Yeah, and how you get there is first by questioning, realizing that you're imperfect, admitting that to
Yes,
yourself, changing things about yourself, which would be your diet, the things that you do, exercise, sleeping right,
Yep.
eating the right proper foods that have the right
Yes. Eat and
energy.
sleep is
That
seriously the
helps
best
your
medicine ever.
vibration and it helps your
Sleep's
mind.
very important.
Yeah. And that's the beginning. And then you start focusing on the body itself in the chakras. How can I fix the body? Okay, eating the right foods, that's part of it, but there's still,
Yep.
I still need a lot of liquid. I need water. That's what is the water is the life blood for our body. So you need that
Right.
water. But well, there's other things like Norma was saying before, you need to look within yourself and see what is lacking. Do I need calcium here, or do I need protein, or I don't need that sugar. Let's get that out of the way and see what happens. I don't need that candy anymore. I don't need all that salt, like Mike was saying. Then what happens without it?
See,
Wow,
those
I
are
feel
just going to be
totally different. I feel better. I cook a
quick
whole
fixes.
meal and
You're
it
going to
feels
drop,
so much
right?
better.
I mean, if you want like a long-term effect,
yeah.
Yep.
And all of that as you start.
I mean, we turn to
building-
sugars and salts because they will give it to you.
Yeah,
Right.
oh, of course. That's what Brenda was saying about how everybody's lazy and with the technology and no one's using their brain. That's the matrix. That's what they
They want
want.
that quick fix. That right
Yeah, that's
now.
what they want.
Because
They
you
want you
will
in that
own
place.
nothing and you will be happy because you're going to be in the
Right.
metaverse.
Right?
You don't have to go
Yep.
anywhere because you're going to be in your cocoon and you're
Right.
going to have the chip in
Yeah.
there to where you're going to be mentally speaking to the machine and it's going to be inputting to your ears and your eyes, directly programming
Yep.
into you that beautiful mansion that you created in the metaverse if you have enough credits in the real world to actually
Right.
buy something in the
Right.
metaverse. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just as poor as you are in the real world. Unless you do things in the metaverse, and that's what it's going to go to. That's the matrix. And
Right.
so they're recreating life. Why? Because they can
Well, they're just-
control it digitally. Once it becomes
Yes,
digital,
they-
they
yeah.
can have complete control. But as long as we're organic, they can't control us. Because unless they, put in 12 jackbooted thugs in front of every human being, they won't be able to control or know or understand.
Not
what
everybody,
we're doing.
right.
Exactly. So
Well, which
as
is
long
kind
as
of
we
scary
are
with
organic,
yeah. But that's kind of why
as
they're
long as we're
trying to
organic, they
implement
can't
new
control us.
programming and
Yeah,
stuff, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Trying to find trying to find something for everyone. Get them put there in their complacent space. Make
Yep.
sure that disconnect them from that natural.
But that's the
aspect of
devil's
things.
that's the devil's first promise. I'll make you like gods. You'll be
Right.
able to fly in the metaverse. You can have whatever face you want.
But
in the
you can
metaverse.
do that here if
You can do
only you
that in your
imagine it
mind.
just right,
You can
right?
do
Like
that
I mean,
anyway.
You will
And
not
that's-
own
yeah.
anything.
You don't
and
need
you will
a
be happy.
metaverse.
yeah,
They're trying to create a whole other matrix, false
Yeah.
matrix of
Yeah.
Yep.
which I get it. I mean, I get with technology.
Well,
and
the
it could be
Matrix
fun.
was
I mean, I've never
predictive
done any-
programming.
Yeah.
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 I've never
Well, yeah.
done any virtual reality, but I'm sure I'd probably like it because I like video games. So
Oh, I
But
loved
I'm not-
it.
yeah, I mean,
When I
they-
saw it back in
they-
'85.
stuck in
Understanding-
that shit.
that's just it. Those understanding our lives are already that way. Our little biological machines are our own little machine. You know what I mean? Bringing in all the data and
But
recording
see,
everything and
but
putting,
hold on, Norma. We are in God's metaverse. Okay.
yeah,
First.
This is what we call natural and organic. They're
Yeah.
trying to create something to supplant
Right.
that.
yes,
Subvert
That
yes.
is their
Yeah.
objective.
But because
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 then
they
they
can.
gotcha.
Okay, here's what I'm trying to explain is that whole holographic universe shit, right? Like, yes, they're trying to put us into a quite literal holographic universe, but they got that idea from how we work, how
Yeah.
we
Like,
function,
we
They
help create
exploited.
how
They
we are.
can't
exploited
create, they
that
can only
place where
imitate.
we were the most vulnerable, and
Yes.
that was when we were veiled, and they took advantage of us
Yes.
there. And they said, "Well, look, they're already vulnerable here. All we have to do is change and add another layer to it,
Yep.
and we can
If I
keep
just
them
put this
there."
in
Trying to
here-
get out
And
ahead
that's
of
what
it.
happened, and
Because
that's
they know
what
that
has
this is
happened.
collapsing.
And so
This
Norma's
system,
right.
which
It's
is-
we
And
helped them, and
continues
Aaron,
to
like Aaron
happen.
said, we helped them do it unwittingly.
Yep.
No,
Well, yeah.
unwittingly, because we
yeah.
like things easy. We
Yes.
don't like to do all the
Yes.
fucking work.
That's
We
right.
don't want to have
work-
to go out there and sweat our ass off in the fields for 12
Mhm.
hours a day when we can sit in the air conditioner in front of a computer for maybe 6
Which
hours.
is what
or
we
8
were
hours.
doing before the veiling, and the veiling was put into place to stop us from doing that. And then we allowed this to happen to ourselves so that we could go, I didn't do it, God. It's them. It's them. And they did it. And God's going, I created them. I know what their job is to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I created you, and I know what your job is to do. So stop
You
pretending.
didn't have to follow them. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's
you
got
didn't have to
that's-
follow him. The temptation was there for you, and you took it. It was bait. I put you in
Exactly.
this mess from the beginning to see if you would do it, and you were stupid enough to
Why?
do it.
Because-
Now you got to
because
get
everybody
yourself
can
out.
say- Because
well,
everybody
there,
in the other reality, what happens if you think something, it becomes real, and many of us don't think through the thought processes and everything that what we're thinking actually implies. So in
Right.
this reality, we're put into that test going, oh yeah, you said back there that, oh, I'd never do that. Kind of like Peter. No, I'll never deny you. Oh, not so fast. Before
Right.
the cock crows, it's going to be 3 times, motherfucker. So
Yep.
wise up, bitch.
Wise
You
up.
know,
Yeah.
it's we are
Yeah,
here to be tested and to prove our shit because we keep saying things, but did you really do it? And so this
Right.
is the reality to where
Yeah. You got to walk the walk
walk.
if you're going to talk the talk. That's right, brother.
Absolutely, that's what this reality is for. Is to
That's
walk
what this
the walk.
reality is. It's you walk the walk or you
Well,
don't make it. It's
yeah.
pass or fail. That's
we had a
that's the
chance
best
to
way
bring
have a
it up
test.
and be balanced, and we kind of
That's the best way
ignored
to
so
have a
much
test.
shit.
Pass or fail, man.
Yeah, but what's a passing grade? Norma, go ahead. Sorry.
No
man.
bell curve.
Well-
You either get out or you don't. It's your choice.
True.
Well,
Your-
I mean, no
your
one
choice.
gets out alive, really, right? I mean,
Not from this one.
Nobody
So-
gets out of that.
like
we all have
we're
have a
I know.
death
I
clock.
And
love
I
to
think-
tell people that. I'm like, this place is so important. People are dying to get out of it, man.
Yes.
There's no,
really.
there's no other
Yeah,
way out
this
of it.
life
Other
is a
way
very
off this rock.
impermanent perception.
You got to
right?
die to go. You
You
can't.
gotta
It's an
die to get
impermanent
out of here. So my
perception.
sister
It's how
says,
you're
when I
perceiving
tell
it
this, well,
and-
is
and-
everybody going to die? I'm like, you do realize that's how you leave this place, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does. Not a
Now we're
single
trying to
person
shoot
didn't.
for the entire species to spontaneously rise to that occasion, so that we don't have to have
Before
a
the great
global
closure,
ending
which is
event.
coming.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
The great
Well, that's
closure is
what I
coming.
think that was a perfect example. Is that the trucker convoy
Yeah.
is a perfect example of what they don't want us to do.
Yes,
That's why
they
they
do
shut it
not
down.
want us together. Right.
Because
That's why they're being
everybody
so
was there.
evil
There were
about it
Muslims
and
there,
going
there
after
were
them.
Kuwaitis
They're
All
punishing
there, there were
guys.
Indians
All of them.
there.
Americans,
Everybody was there
everyone
for
was
the
there.
same reason.
Yep.
They're punishing them like they did January 6th, same thing. If you are defying them and their rule of law and what
Yeah.
they want you to believe, they
Rule of
now
law,
have
their
to punish you utterly to make sure that they scare everyone else. The problem is no one's scared anymore. Look at that. Who's that little thing? Who's that?
McKinley.
This
That's
is
a
our
little teeny girl.
grandbaby.
How old is she?
So
What is she like?
grandbaby, one of them.
One of our grandbabies.
Grandbaby.
What is she?
Oh,
2?
yeah.
If she's lucky, how old is she?
She's 2, and here's the little 1-year-old.
1-year-old.
Hello,
Well,
Silas.
well,
There's
look
the
at
Silas
one-year-old.
Aaron.
the
So-
multiple
Yeah.
generations.
Proud of
Hi,
her.
Hi, I'm the
mommy.
one that's always yelling in the background.
No worries.
I hear the
You
kids
got-
more than I hear you,
My
so don't
daughter.
worry.
I got 2 kids, 2 toddlers.
Hey, that's the
And,
way it is, man.
Yelling
That's
Yelling
the
up
way
and
it
stuff.
is.
Hold on. Hold on.
Welcome to
Elliot,
motherhood.
Norma,
I
having
just
this
have to be like,
opportunity.
hey, projection.
Having this opportunity, you mentioned on Facebook, Norma, that your daughter was going through some difficulties.
My other daughter, my youngest
Oh,
daughter. Yeah.
okay. Just
We have
Yeah.
lots of daughters.
but well, there you
I
go.
got 2.
Well, see, that's
You
that's
know
the whole
No.
that's the whole
And the
purpose of
grandbabies.
this thing. Those multiple generations is the whole purpose of it. That's why we're
Yeah.
not immortal, because we're
Yeah.
supposed to program the next generation and keep.
Well,
this
I mean,
basic program to
Yes
make
and
it
no,
grow.
right? I think we're supposed to assist them and guide them in understanding how
Who
the
they
universe
are.
works, so that they can
Yes,
build
Yeah.
their
Make their
own,
own
perceptions.
decisions.
Yeah.
exactly. It
But
is
the problem
there.
is, that we're not doing that anymore
Right.
because of all this technology. Nobody's passing on any pliable skills,
Right.
and they hadn't.
Right.
Our parents
Well, I
didn't.
mean-
their parents didn't with them.
Many of
It's
us
getting
have this
better
idea of
now.
a legacy, and I don't think we should
Right.
use our kids for that, right? I think that when you do that, you put that
Well,
extra
Well,
pressure,
hold on.
right? 'Cause
Sometimes,
sense
yeah,
that.
and that was my problem, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so mentally fucked up, because my dad wanted
Right.
me to be legacy, but wasn't able to actually
Right.
keep things going for me to have a legacy. So my entire raison d'être, my reason for existence, kind of collapsed out from under me, and
Right,
I got to
right.
figure shit out on my own. And that's a fucked up place to be. Whenever you didn't create your own identity, I was my dad's helper.
See, and that's, yeah,
That's basically
Right.
what I was trained and bred
Yeah.
to be. I was educated
Right.
to be the administrator that made the things that he started even greater. That was my
yeah.
entire.
And many of us inadvertently do that, to our kids.
Everybody does, because you
Yeah.
push your kids to do what you. Oh, my kid's going to be a doctor or a lawyer because I know they
Well,
make
even
money.
even if you're not pushing your own thing on them, you want them to be the best they can be, and you're pushing them, right? And no matter what pressure you're giving, you're still kind of putting a sense of you in
actually,
them that they are going to
however,
respond to.
I
right?
don't put pressure on my kids, and they are taking it out on me because I didn't put pressure
And
on.
it doesn't matter how
We
you do
got
it. That's what I'm
because we
telling
did,
you.
so.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you do it.
Damned if you
Yeah.
don't. Really, really. Ultimately,
It's the
until he's
truth.
willing to
Yeah.
take responsibility.
So
for his
just-
life,
That's
this is
see,
how
you gotta
between
he's gonna
you.
remember,
do it.
Mike. That's
You're
their
right,
ego. They're trying to blame it on you because they don't want to take responsibility for their own
Yes,
self.
yes,
I don't.
exactly.
I can't do this because you didn't help me when
Yeah,
I needed
right.
help. I helped
Yeah.
you your entire life. I made you.
Which is
I made sure you had clothes. I made sure that you were fed. I made sure that
Yep.
you had
That's
schooling. I
right.
made sure you had doctors. What didn't
and that's
I
one
do?
thing that I told my son. I said, look,
What didn't I do
my
for
dad,
you?
my dad, my
Right.
dad helped me with the taekwondo classes and the tennis classes and everything else. But when I wanted to play football, nobody would help me at all, and that's what I've been known for 20 years here in Brazil. So, but what happened? And I told my son, look, I went up to the school and I said I want to play football, and they said, son, it's too late because training camp
Right.
already ended. We got our team, so better luck next year. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so I had a neighbor who, her sons, she had 3 boys that were already graduated, but she was still, had her flags out and everything else. And so I knocked on her door and asked her, well, one of your boys played football, right? Yeah. How do I get in there? Oh, yeah. Well, here's the information. You go on this date. It starts at this time. And you just got to show up and make sure I had to go after shit myself to
Yeah.
get what I wanted to get.
Right.
It was
Right.
my
Yeah.
fucking goal to be a football player. And so my dad didn't help me. My mom didn't help me. Nobody
Right.
else helped me because you don't want to play football. You can't
Right.
play football. I wanted to. And so you have to go after things yourself. And that's a story that I told my son. And now all of a sudden
Right.
he took his own initiative and now he's working out. He's taking his own initiative to ride his bike and get the exercise.
I was just going to do
His
that,
own
Aaron.
initiative
Thank you.
To do all kinds of other things. Sorry, I've been rambling on. I'll let you guys.
No,
No,
it's
you're
okay.
good. Yeah.
No,
But
I was
that's
just
just
talking.
it. It is finding
Aaron
that fine
looked down and
balance.
saw
Right.
the same thing I saw that Julie said. And I reached over to post it up on the screen, and Aaron was ahead of me. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just was telling Aaron I was about to hit that same comment because of what Julie said there.
Well,
She said, "So the
I knew a
balance."
lot
This
more
is what
when I was a
Norma's saying,
teenager.
where it's it is and
Didn't we, though?
Aaron, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
All you can do is kick him back into play. My father, he never told us. You would never hear from him. Let me tell you what I would do. He'd never said that my
Yeah.
entire life.
Yeah.
He was always like Dr. Phil. He would be like, "Well, how's that working out for you?" Right?
Yeah.
And so he would encourage us, and we didn't realize it that he, again, through osmosis, he
Mhm.
was giving us this really strong work ethic that we didn't realize was happening.
Right.
That's
He
the
was teaching
subconscious
us that
programming.
without making it a chore. He would go,
Right.
"Hey,
Yeah.
you want to come with me and do this? I'm going to work on the
Yeah.
car. I'm going to paint the house. I'm going to go and get one of the rabbits out there. And
Do
we're going to have
those
rabbit for
basic
dinner. But
See,
I
and
didn't
yeah,
cut it
see,
and
for
skin
one of
it
my
and cut
kids,
it." Yeah.
my encouragements didn't come across as encouragements, right? They came across as pressure.
Yeah.
And for another one, my support was coming across as non-supportive, right? So
Right.
it really is the perception of what you see when you start putting meaning on things.
But see,
There's,
there
you know,
we need to.
Right.
it is a very
wanted
fine
to say what
balance,
their
right?
perception was. But see, we
Yeah.
also have this interaction with the teenagers to where we still believe they're that little baby and they're not necessarily their own conscious, aware individual. Because I knew a lot of fucking shit at 13 or 14 years old. A lot of my identity was formed at
That's
that
really
fucking
kind of,
age.
yeah. Mhm.
And I've just been proven wrong my entire life. But hey, that's a whole nother story.
Well, I wanted to follow up what Julie
Yeah.
said. She said, "Ugh, teenagers." When I was a teenager,
But
I
you
thought I
fought
knew everything
to
as
fight.
well. By
Yeah.
the time I
Yeah.
turned like 25, I woke up one day and I was 25 to 27 years old, somewhere in there, and I realized that I must have forgotten everything in the world because I didn't know it. But yesterday, I was just sure I fucking knew it all. And now
Yeah.
today, I realize I don't know a fucking thing, right?
Right.
And that's what happens to all of us at some point in our lives.
No,
Some
'cause you
people
get
earlier
old
than
and you
others, some
forget,
people
you old
later than
nutbag.
others. What's that?
I think it's
You get
because
old and
ultimately we
forget,
don't
you
know.
nutbag. It's
Yeah,
called
then you
senility.
get old and you forget, right?
It's
Then
called
you do
senility.
forget
It's
everything.
normal. I tell people I've forgotten more than most people actually learn. It's just so.
I forget.
Right.
My ability to forget things is, just
Well,
wow.
that happens
like,
as we get older because, first of all, if you don't
I've
have
been
a
doing it for a
physiological problem, like, I have to worry about the markers to possibly Alzheimer's because my mother has that.
Yeah.
So I have to, check to see if I have that gene. I just assume that I have it. And so I'm making preparations now and taking the right foods and nutrients to keep
Yes.
that, to
Also,
not have that problem.
train your mind.
Yeah.
Yes,
It is.
You have
It
to.
is.
Your mind is
Train your mind.
just
You
like
have
a
to be-
muscle. It's like anything else. If you don't
You
use it
have
and you're not
to work
taxing it, and that's why when we go back to what
My
we
great
were talking
grandmother
about with
did
all the remote controls and
Circle
everything,
Works.
they want you to sit down and not do anything, so you're not
Yeah.
creating brain cells, so
Right.
that you're just degrading, and your
Yes.
memory's just going to go away.
Yeah,
Because just
keep your mind sharp.
exercising creates brain cells
Yep.
because you have to
Mhm.
think, to coordinate, to do what you're going to do, and that
Yep.
actually makes you more healthy, creates a better energy in you, and strengthens your mind. You have
Yep.
to use your mind all the time. The second,
Well,
but
it's
You know,
working all the
then you
time
have to
anyway, right?
balance,
It's
but
working
the-
all the time anyway.
then
If
you
you're
have
not
to
conscious
balance.
of it,
Yeah,
it
you have
could
to
just be wilting over here, and you're not
right.
even
You have
gonna.
to balance that point, because we're also telling you we want you to meditate and get into that place where you're not thinking, but we want you there because you chose to be there, not because the television pulled you there,
Yeah.
right? Not
Because
because
you
the
can never
internet pulled
stop
you there.
thinking. There's never
see,
going to be a
that's-
time
See, that's
when
that's
you can completely clear your mind.
Right.
There's always going to be something going on there. I think it's really what it is being able to have the discipline, and I'm sure Mike can tell you about this being in Taekwondo, is have the discipline to stay focused on your
Yes.
task, which is relaxation or
Martial
whatever
arts
it
has
is.
helped me. Mike and I talked about this before. But being in
Right.
martial arts my whole life, that has helped me far, far more than almost anything else, because it's all about
self-consciousness,
it's about being
confidence. Sorry.
Yes, it's about being conscious in the moment. You have to focus, like Aaron just said. You have to stay focused, because even if you're not in combat, you still have to be aware of every movement that you
could
have.
be
Well, yeah,
at any
that's just it.
instant,
You
and
could
you
be
could
at
be caught
any
off guard.
instant, right? And then
Yeah.
if you are in combat, or even if you're just sparring, now you have to pay attention to the finite, because it's not
Everybody
infinite,
else around.
the finite amount of movements that a human body can do to hurt me, and I have to be able to stop them from doing that. So the only way I can know that is you have to know a thing to stop a thing. He who controls the spice controls the universe. If I know every move that the human body can make to attack me, I can then defend against every move. And you program the body to respond.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge
The
is
more
power.
you know, the
Right.
better you can counteract it.
And the more you practice, even if it's
Well,
only
but that all
mental,
comes down
the
to your
more
awareness
you
too.
your body is apt to do that automatically out of reflex.
Well, I used
Out
to
of
teach
program.
my athletes didn't actually understand why I would make them repeat things. I got it, coach. I understand. No, do it again.
Do it again.
No, but understand. I got it.
Do it
No,
again till you can do it with your eyes closed.
Because what I was working on them is what I was worked on when I was at the University of Texas championship
Right.
year 1990. Their training method was it's muscle memory. You can't think that
Yep.
instant when you have to react.
Right.
Your muscles already know what to do because
Yep.
you've gone through it so many times that this is what I'm going to do. He's going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. He's going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. He's
Right.
going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. And
If
so
you watch the
train
movie
it.
The Last
Because
Samurai, they
those
showed you
preconceived
that.
notions, those
They
first-
showed
those
you that in the
recordings,
scene
those-
where
You have
the
too
guys
many
attack him.
minds. You have
When
too many
the guys
minds.
attack him and he's inside his head and he's seeing in his head everything in slow motion before it happened, and then again afterwards, because he's remembering, did I take care of everyone? No, there's that one guy who's about to try and hit me and I have to duck. And he ducks and then he kills that guy and he gets up and he's standing there, and that's when he realizes that the training that he had made his body a samurai and his mind didn't have to
Yeah.
think. He knew ahead of time every move they could possibly make because of where they were around him and what they were doing. That's like the Matrix.
Yeah, all the
and him
thinking
doing
is
it in there.
done. Well, it's like
Well-
playing golf. All the thinking is done before you hit the ball.
Yep.
When you get to that moment of, I would like to call it Zen,
Yeah.
which
It
challenges
is.
there.
It's,
I
it's,
mean,
it's no, but it's zen. It's focusing.
you
You're
get
in
in
the
the zen-like
zone.
state,
It's
and you
all
just
kinds of
focus,
things.
and all you like for me, the best golf balls I've ever hit or best shots I've ever hit has come because I have focused and saw that actual shot.
Your
and I
intention of
probably
what
hit,
you wanted to
I mean,
do, you
perfect
told your
shots, like
body, you imagined it,
4 or
you
5
used your
in
mind to
20
see it in
years.
your mind. This is what's going to happen, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
that's just
absolutely.
it.
You see it before you create it, and that's what
Yep.
every sport teaches you.
Yep.
If you're in basketball, be the ball. Those guys
Yes.
you see before the free
Be the
throw,
spoon. Do you remember that when Neo, when
Exactly.
they were going to twist
you
the spoon,
don't
he said, "Be the
You
spoon."
don't bend the
Right.
spoon.
Yeah.
You
Well, because our
bend.
mind is
You
always kind
bend,
of guessing
right.
what's going to happen next.
You're not
right?
bending the
Doesn't matter.
spoon.
Yeah, it's
You're
always kinda
becoming the spoon, and you're
preconceived.
bending.
It's always
Yeah,
trying to.
Absolutely.
Because there's people
Yeah.
that can
Be
actually
the
just
spoon.
naturally, they can jump into something like any sport and just be good at it naturally
Yeah.
because
Um,
they're trusted. They have faith in their body and their connection with that body, mind, and spirit.
You know, it's
right?
the same in combat. They did that in a movie, bro, and it was in a Full Metal Jacket when they had this one guy who was stupid as a stump. And he said to the guy, he was introducing him, and he goes, "This is so and so. He's dumb as a stump, but if somebody tries to shoot him or lob a grenade at him, and you point him in a direction and say kill, he's a machine."
Oh yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. I know
So
you're
he
talking about
physically in
Animal or
war,
something, right?
in combat,
Yeah,
that was
man.
what that kid was good at. He wasn't
Right.
overly bright, but man, you set him on a mission, and he's going to murder everyone in front of him, and he never gets hurt,
Right.
and because he's good at that thing.
Yeah.
Right. So some people have those abilities that they pop in with, and they're not like
And
Aaron
I
was
think
saying.
we all do with
you know,
certain things.
We all do to
have
something. There's
Yeah.
something that
We all
all
have
of us
that.
can
Yeah.
do that we don't know until we
Right.
try it. That's why you say you don't never know until you try, because you might have a skill that you would
Yeah.
never imagine is your bliss, and then one day you do it and you go, "Oh my
Right.
God, that was
my
the
God, I
most
love this
natural
so
thing I
much."
ever did, and it felt good.
Yep.
Why have I not been doing this before?"
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
When
Yeah.
you see it, you create it.
Well,
when
it's
you
not-
see it and you visualize it, like in golf, my brother, he's pretty good at it. He was
See the
one of
ball.
those natural athletes that was just always. I mean, I'm an average natural athlete. So I'm athletic. I'm pretty good. But then there's some people that just
Nah,
they're-
really?
They're highly
You look really
competitive.
scrawny,
They're
dude.
very They're very.
Yeah. What are you talking
They
about?
can
You're a
just
tiny
do it.
guy.
They can just
Right.
do it like I was
Right.
saying. And I think we all have that to some extent. Like maybe there's somebody that's just naturally akin to like coding and computers and knows how to do that and just
Everybody-
understands it right
Everybody
away.
has an affinity.
You
Absolutely.
still learn the fundamentals of things and you still
Yeah.
have to go through those steps, but
Right.
you do it at such a fast rate because and I think that's what a lot of people don't do. They kind of run away from what their true talents are.
Well, it's
instead of
because
really
they're lazy.
Well,
We've
because
covered
they
this,
nurturing
right?
instead of
Well,
nurturing
they're
them.
caught up in the
brokenness,
matrix, and you
society
don't
that
wanna
says
do
you can
anything.
do it like this, and
Because the
it
Matrix
works out
doesn't
for you.
make you do anything.
No, it
Right.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't.
can
You
just
have
go
to
work for
choose
this guy
to.
and make
I agree.
everything I need, and it's not going to worry. I can, whatever. They've kind of got us so disconnected, and
Well, that's what we were 50 years ago, Norma.
Yeah.
But nowadays,
Yeah.
you can't trust your boss. Your boss isn't going to help you for fuck all.
no,
He'll
hell
fire
no.
your ass before he has to do anything. I mean, look at Enron.
Right.
Yep.
They took all their
Yep.
fucking pensions and said,
Yep.
fuck off. We're
Oh,
broke.
dude, I was let go from a job one time because I was the lowest man on the totem pole, even though the person that stayed flat out said she hated the job. You know what I mean?
So she was willing to take more pay and
there's-
less pay.
when
and she
you're
did it.
working for someone else, you're working for someone else. There is no.
Well, I know. Check
security
this
in
out.
that
Listen
shit.
to what happened to me. I was a retail manager, and I was being weaned to be trained to be a
Mhm.
district manager. Okay, the district manager who was training me really liked me, and she had me going around doing and she was teaching me her job.
Yep.
I was following her like a Padawan learner, and she says, this is what you're going to be doing. I'm going to be moving up in this company, and I'm going to have handpick my people. I'm training them now who are going to be my people." And I said, "Okay." Well,
'Cause
she
they're
ended up
dirty.
leaving the company because the zone vice president wanted to sleep with her, and she said no, and he said he was going to ruin
Right.
her because of that, so she left the company. Well, because I was one of her guys and the top
You left
dog,
too. Yep.
the district that they gave her was the crappiest district, and she brought me over to turn the store around, and she started bringing her people and having me train her managers
Right.
so that she could turn them around. They decided the new district manager who came in was sleeping with the zone vice president, and she decided that what are we going to do with this crappy ass? You left us with 7 bad. She left with 7 bad managers and 1 good one. So
Right.
now are we going to fire all 7? The zone vice president says no. We fire the good one. And that scares 2 or 3 or
Yeah.
4 of the other ones into line. If we can fire the good one for no reason, we'll fire all of you, and that gives us time
Yep.
to retrain, and we can fire them at our leisure down the road. We don't have to do it now.
Because that's
They'll
the whole
snap
point.
2 for
They
a while,
don't
and
give
we'll
a
just
shit
replace
about
them.
the individual.
Right.
For
No, we're
example,
all just
just-
numbers in that corporate
Well,
world.
for example,
right?
one little example from almost a decade ago already, Foxconn, the maker of Apple iPhones, right? They're in the middle of China. They had a month to where they had 27 suicides in less than 30 days.
Right.
Okay, now whenever we'd have that in Europe or in the US, what you get is that you would have some kind of surveillance. You would analyze why they did it. You'd have a psychological evaluation of the employees. You'd have an analysis of the managers and the supervisory, and you try and figure out how you would be able to remedy the situation and reduce the amount of suicides, right? That would be the logical course of action that we would normally take in the West, I hope, under ethical and moral situations, which don't really happen. What happened there in China? They put out safety nets so that whoever jumped would be caught, then brought in, and they'd be taken to a psychological evaluation and fired, right? So what happens? They had 27 people, and they had to fill those
It's
slots.
crazy.
And so they put in an ad, a want ad, in the newspaper. They got more than 1 million people wanting those 23 jobs. You think they give a shit
Right.
about the 23
Yeah.
guys that actually
No.
killed themselves? Fuck them. They were weak. We
No,
got to keep
bottom
on.
No,
line
but it
is
was the
all that
optics
matters.
of the people would have no faith in them if they didn't do
Yeah.
something to make it look like they cared.
Right.
So they had to
Oh,
pretend they cared so that
No,
the world wouldn't
here-
turn on
here in
them
the
for
West-
not
Yeah.
caring.
Here in the
pretend.
West, they have to
Yeah.
pretend.
They act like there's
There,
like
they don't even have
Yeah.
to pretend. They just put out a net so that they wouldn't have to scrape up the blood on
Yeah,
the
I
ground.
remember him putting the net
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I remember
Right.
that too. Yeah,
But it still gives the impression that they care because they're stopping from
At least
hey,
you know
I
that,
might have
you know.
one
Well,
fall
who
on me
would
when I'm
have
parking
that
my car. We
impression?
need to stop that. That's kind of embarrassing, right? So they make it look like they care, but they don't really give a shit. You're right.
No.
Well, that's
100%.
just it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you got a lot of companies. I mean, even here that do stupid
Well, the
shit.
companies
and like,
that are like that do care about their employees are getting shut
They're
down
getting, yeah,
for having
stomped
getting
out, bought
attacked
out,
right now.
yeah.
So
Because they can't
It's-
compete because their
they
expenses
want it
are
all
too high.
corporate. That's
Right.
what they want. They want this private partnership between. So basically, I mean, it already
You're
kind
a
of does, but
slave,
there's
and
at
they
least a
can
little
tell
bit
you
of a
whatever
wall.
they want.
Corporations
Exactly.
want to run the world.
Yeah.
They already are, but they want the powers to do it.
Yeah.
They want
Right.
the actual
Like,
title.
did you
Like-
They
you
don't
watch the
just
video
want
today from
they
the?
don't just want to run the world. They want to run our minds as
Yeah.
well.
Well,
That's
well,
the
that's-
last
well,
version.
they're
Elon
kinda- yeah.
Musk. Just one question, guys. Did you guys watch the video from the Canadian finance minister? And he was talking about the identification system they want to run, and we need to
Mhm.
trust the banking system because they have their security systems and everything else, and they won't be hacked, and your information is secure with them, and it'll be easier for you because you don't have to remember any of your passcodes or anything else. Just show them just scan your hand
Yeah,
and
just
you're
selling you
good.
on the lazy.
It's so much easier for you. You don't have to worry about it.
That's the mark of
You'll
the beast
own
from the
nothing.
Bible, my friend.
You'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the mark. That's the mark
Well,
of the
yeah.
beast. It's in your
I
right
know
hand
that.
or your
Why the-
forehead,
It's also
right?
called fascism.
And actually,
It
that was a
is,
really
because,
bizarre
you know,
thing
yeah.
because there was an
World
IBM
fascism.
scientist. He was paid
Yeah.
thousands. He and 5 different people were paid thousands of dollars to study where the best place for an RFID chip to be placed for them because they wanted to make it efficient, right? And so they actually studied in the feet and the legs and the arms, in the wrist or in the neck or maybe in the chest. They studied different areas and find out where the receptability would be most efficient. And
Yeah.
out of those thousands of dollars or probably millions of dollars spent on that study, one of the lead scientists actually talked about the fact that he was surprised at the findings because the findings of the absolute best location for those RFID chips was in the right hand or in the forehead.
Or in the forehead. Yep.
And he was sitting there going, but wait, I remember where that was written down somewhere before. But this is the science. We did the study. We're not making this up. We actually
the palm
tried to
chakra
find it.
also represents the third eye chakra too.
Well,
Yeah.
there you
So-
go. But
Yeah, when
see,
you get that duck
The
foot,
forehead is the third eye, and
Third
the palm
eye right
chakra is
there.
right here,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's
you get
the,
that duck paw,
yeah,
you get the
They
duck
want to
foot in your
control it.
hand.
They want to control your third eye, man. Your
Right, Aaron,
perception
put
of
your hand
things.
back up. Aaron has it too. Put your hand back up and show the duck foot. See, he's got the duck foot in his hand as well.
What is
Right.
that?
And Mike has the
Healer.
potential, but
What is
Aaron has the healing abilities. He's
I
a
don't know
healer.
what it is. What is
And
that?
That's
that's why
dope.
I have it. I'm a Reiki master teacher and I have it.
like
I'll
that.
bet you Norma has the, you guys have been studying Reiki. So you guys are also getting it
I don't
already.
think this
So
in
you're
my
starting.
hand.
So
Yeah, we
she
just
has
did a
the
class
ability.
on
It's
it last
there.
week. It was pretty cool.
It's there, but it's not as apparent because I'm a master teacher. So that's why that thing
Yeah.
looks deep. And Aaron is right behind me. That's why his looks deep. Right. So when you hit that,
And
the
mine
stage,
isn't
that
formed
shows
because I
your
don't know
third eye.
shit.
That's why we always do this too. You notice we always go third eye wide. We show the hand, the palm of the hand when we do it. I was wearing that shirt yesterday, as a matter of fact, when Mike, when we were talking, I had the shirt on that said third eye wide.
Yeah.
And that's why we always show our hand. We always do this with our hand, third eye wide, and we're showing that palm to you when we do that. There's a reason for that. Nothing is done or undone or done by mistake. All of that is there.
That's right.
And it's there for everybody to see. We do that. We joke about that. Reiki masters joke about that duck foot in our hand because it happens when I look at my hand, I don't see it unless I project the energy, and then I can see it raw. But when I put it up to you guys, I'm pushing energy at you right now. I don't know if you can feel it, but
That's why it's blue.
and that's why it's blue. Yeah. right? And some people
Because it's
will
people
feel
calm.
the whiteness, the blue, and it'll be a cold energy that's coming in, or it depends on what they need, or they'll feel the fire, which is the red from the rest of the hand. Some people feel both fire and ice, and they'll go, it's weird. It's kind of hot and cold at the same time. And I'm like, that's when you're getting all of the Reiki energy. You're
There
getting
you
the
go.
hot and the cold, which is all of it, right? So some people only feel heat, some people only feel the cold, or different areas of their body.
Yeah.
I was doing a Reiki on my ex-wife, and when I got to her crown chakra, she was feeling cold. But then when I got down to her midsection and started getting towards the root chakra, she felt more heat in that area. And that tuning was different for both of those chakras and those points. So one, she needed the feminine, which is the cold, and the other, she needed more masculine, and that was the hot, the warmer energy that was coming through. So in different places of her body, she felt the different energy coming
Do you
through.
need both of those to make that chi ball that you were talking about?
To get it completely balanced, you have to have the yin and the yang.
You just gotta grasp that
I can
energy.
feel the warmth, but I
But
can't
you can
stand
still,
it.
Dude,
you
if
I
you
can
can't
study
still,
expand
master,
it beyond
you
this
study
point.
Taekwondo, dude,
You
you
can
are
just
you know
feel
how to
it.
you know how to harness
Master
it. You know when they make you break boards?
You
You know that key they
Yeah,
talk about?
that chi that you
That-
use, yeah,
That is it. That is the same
That
energy.
is
man.
it.
You're building it
That
up,
is
but you're
where
just building it in front of you.
I also studied Tai Chi for a little while. I also
There you
did
go.
karate and
yeah.
I
Tai
had
Chi,
Kung
Tai
Fu.
Chi is literally the
Kung
Yeah,
Fu
if
yeah.
is slowed
you,
down.
yes, everything is it's
Yes.
slowed down and methodical. So
Yes.
it's like doing yoga while you're doing martial arts, and that you
Yes.
have to be very present to do that. You have to conjure the energy, and
That's
it only
right.
works when
Basically,
you flow
you're
right.
basically
You're kind of you're
what would
manipulating
spinning,
your
you are spinning a ball of energy
field,
or whatever
right?
energy field you're
your
trying to
energetic
create.
field, right?
Yep.
That's why they're doing this and they're pushing from the chest.
Oh,
and
no,
they're
no,
bringing it
hold
back
on.
doing
in.
that,
Hold on.
and they're doing this and drawing
they're
it
doing
in. Yeah.
they're doing
Yeah.
trying
With-
to
All
there,
right.
there
Yeah,
we go.
right. I think.
Yeah,
There you go.
you
You
gotta have
got
the
the three.
Yeah.
Right,
right,
because
right.
everybody says, "Oh, why?" Because when I was studying karate down here in Brazil, from my running back, actually, his father was a karate, and they had their own dojo, and he did that as well. And so I went there to get some karate classes from him as well. And I did some, Tai Chi and Kung Fu warm ups before the classes and everything else. And I remember one of his students asking him, "What's he doing?" He says, "I have no idea." And so sometimes whenever I'd be warming up, I'd be doing that. Now they'd ask me, "Why do you do that?" It wasn't in my Kung Fu, it wasn't in my Taekwondo or anything else, but my dad loved Chinese culture, the pre-communist Chinese culture, because it is thousands of years old. I mean, we come between Confucianism and there's a lot of wise words in there. And the Taoism, you have talked about
Buddhism,
things I'm getting
Taoism,
into
Taoism,
are much like the Tao. I didn't read
right.
the Tao until I was 35 or 38, something like that.
I just read the Tao last year, bro. It was
So-
first time I read it. I read the Art of War, I read the Buddha, but I didn't read the Tao until someone pointed it out because I was writing the book
I
The
read.
Way.
I read the
Somebody said
Tao.
there's a book called that was written in 604 or whatever, 406.
Which,
you know,
there was
what?
Fritz,
And I read it.
Fritjof Capra wrote a book called The Tao of Physics. Okay, and he also I first got into him because he wrote a book called The Web of Life. Right.
You
And
should
so
read it
that's-
if you haven't finished reading. We were talking about this off air. We didn't bring it up again. Aaron and Norma and I are very much delve into and go down this rabbit hole that is the Hermetica, that is the Hermetic text, that is Hermes.
You said we were going to talk
Trismegistus.
about that today. We hadn't. So go ahead.
And right, and so you just segued perfectly into that, right? That's why I segued with you because
Well,
you just
then
perfectly segued
let's
into
do it.
that. That people, you guys, if you're reading any of the scrolls, any of you out there who've read any of the dusty old tomes or any of the Dead Sea Scrolls or any of that, you had to have come on, certain scrolls, like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I recommend you read those. The Hermetica,
Book of Enoch.
the Book of Enoch, right? All of those ancient scrolls, and any of them, including the Viking sagas of their creation story, because you'll find out that they're all talking about the same exact
Don't
thing,
forget
which
about
is
the
what we've been
Hopi.
talking about this
Don't
entire
forget
show.
about
Yeah,
the
the
Hopi.
indigenous
The Hopi were on
people,
another
yeah.
fucking
Indigenous
continent.
period, yep.
Yeah.
The
And
Hopi
so
were on another
literally,
continent. They had no
the most
communication with anybody else.
comprehensive,
But the Hopi closed in with all those same reverberations that we see in all the different cultures because they're all telling the
Yes.
same fucking story.
yes. And right, and then so you have groups, Aboriginal groups, because their religions are so old, they've had access to all of this knowledge, and that's been handed down. So the Hopi, like Mike was just talking about, the Aborigines in Australia are the same. They have older memories, so they have had time to compare all of these scrolls. Where us in the West, where most of the people over here are either Christians or Jews, and it's a Western Judeo-Christian ideology, which is great in and of itself, but it's also cutting off the entire spiritual side of your spirituality. It's not.
But that's what they want. The secular society is
Yes.
to cut off your spiritual connection.
To be a good
Yes.
Christian today is
Accept
someone
someone
who's not
else as
following
your
Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
noticing
actually,
that.
Well, the thing
Yeah.
about Christianity is that we build up a lot of dogma and a lot of structure and a lot of theories about everything. But in the base, look, forget everything. I mean, I studied Luther and I was in the seminary for a year and some odd in college. Forget all that. Just read the red words. If you call yourself a Christian, then look at the words of Christ.
Right.
Nobody else's, not even Paul's, not even Peter's. They've all got their own interpretations.
First, look up the
Right.
word
Read
Christ
the
and look
red
up the word
words.
Jesus and understand what those words actually mean.
Now, what you have to understand is that Jesus of Nazareth was his embodiment of suffering. He will not come back as Jesus of Nazareth.
Correct.
He will come back as Jesus the Christ.
Correct.
With that sword of judgment coming on everyone. That's a whole nother story. But what I wanted people to focus on is the red words. The words of Jesus. If you call yourself a Christian, read Jesus' words, study those. If you study nothing else in the Bible, that's fine. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they're right there. And you will get
those
that
parables.
foundation.
Those parables can replace all the parables in the book if you would like, but you can still read the other parables in the book. They're great
Because they all
for
back
tools
up
to
the
teach
same
you.
thing. Because
They all
he
back
keeps
up the same
repeating
thing.
what his
Right.
father was actually telling them generations and thousands of years before.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
he
so-
and the Father are
So
one.
it's good. The good story is still there, but like Mike says, if you just listen to the dogma and only listen to what the priests tell you, they're going to feed you this redundant spiral that's 2 to 3 years long, depending on the curricula. I know that because I'm a Christian minister.
I know that's why
and
that's why I
the,
didn't.
and I have the
But that's why
criteria.
that's why I didn't become a minister.
Right.
Because whenever I actually gave a service, I had done art class when I was 11 to 13 and that sort of stuff. So I put on plays and that sort of shit. And I don't like memorizing shit. So memorizing lines was a pain in the ass. That's why I didn't. But I recognized the same thing when I was giving service.
Yeah.
Because we followed the structure in the book, and you're going
Right.
to say, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to read this, and I'm going to chant this one,
On
and
this
I'm going to
month,
sing
on
this
this
one.
Sabbath, everything is already
The
pre-done,
the
preordained.
sermon is going to be this one.
Yep.
Choose from these 3 options because that's our
Yep.
focus this particular week.
Yep.
And the central church
On the
synod
third year of
told you
every
what you're gonna-
third year cycle, you'll know you're on it if you are in September,
So
and
what's
it
the
is
point?
the
There's
month
no
of
connection to-
relationships.
There's
Then
no
you're on the
connection
third
to
year
your soul.
of the cycle in the Bible. That the September going into October is about relationships, and then it's about a recompense for the relationships as you get closer to the birth of Christ on Christmas. That's year 3 of any Christian or Catholic school or
Building up
ministry.
the narrative, building up the
Yeah,
story of Advent and everything else,
Yep.
focusing on their dogma. And you never actually get, they'll be talking about a bunch of different stuff that's going to be fortifying their position. But it's never, it is. Usually you got one part of the sermon because one you got Old Testament, then you got New. And sometimes they'll focus on the red words in the sermon. And those were the ones that I've waited the entire theater for those red words.
Yes, and what Peter's saying here about, we talked about, he remembers in episode 9, we discussed the Book of Kells. Yes, we did. And the Book of Kells, it is beautiful, and it is beautiful to see. I have never seen it in person. One day it's on my bucket list. I want to go and actually witness it in person. But it's so thick that if you tried to read and understand every image that's in the book and all the words that are in the book, you could read it from the day you were born until the day you died, and you will never read the same thing over again, and you'll never figure it all out because there's just too much information in there for one lifetime. That's no joke. Look up the Book of Kells. It's crazy. Right?
Yeah.
But it's stuff that people put together for that purpose. And so that one is more complete because they didn't let it get disturbed like they did they didn't take it to the Council of Nicaea. So David didn't get to screw with it. And then what's his name? what is his name? I can't. Constantine didn't screw with it, so
Constantine, yeah.
so it's still in its original form. There's only a few
Very nice.
Bibles and scrolls left that are from that time that didn't get destroyed. That's why the Dead Sea Scrolls became so important to us to find them, because those were the books taken out.
But those
of the
were,
Bible.
but those like the book of Enoch and the book of Daniel, he was told,
Yeah.
save these for the end times. We were meant to see these books
Agreed.
because we
yeah.
are awakening and ready
and we're
to
deciphering them
understand.
and realizing what they mean, and that they're all the same story. And truthfully, it's just a fairy tale that you tell children. That's all it is.
No, it's
That's
also
true.
written in Revelation.
But it's also
In
the
end, everyone
greatest
will,
story ever told.
but like
to you
but like
at
in
the
Revelation, it
same
says
time.
everyone will believe the myths.
Yeah.
Because the myths and legends are reality. Achilles, he existed. He was one of the Nephilim. You know, he was the giants. Why they bring this motherfucker in? Nobody can touch him. The Greeks win, and they write stories about him. The
Right.
great men of old, the giants, the men
Yeah.
of renown.
Yeah.
And those stories are repeated in every fucking society.
They just changed the name. It's the Hero with 1,000 Faces. If anybody knows Joseph Campbell, read that book. You'll understand. He made the correlation and then showed you in the book how every single backstory from every single religion is the same. They just changed the word for the deity, for the boss, for the god, for the
I
Tiamat
figured
dragon.
that out in 8th grade whenever I read the book of Gilgamesh. I said, "Holy shit! Wait, this was
Right,
before
Gilgamesh.
What?
That's another
Huh?
one. That's the same.
You
It's
read the
even,
book
it's older
Gilgamesh
again.
in
Yeah,
eighth
yeah,
grade? Holy shit, dude!
Right?
yeah.
You talking about the Epic of Gilgamesh? Damn,
Yeah.
dude, you were pretty advanced in 8th grade,
Right.
or a young kid. Holy shit!
See
I
that
was reading about the Bermuda Triangle and the Nazca Lines when I was 6 and 7 years old.
Yeah.
My dad would go during lunch and look for me in the schoolyard, and he'd go to my friends at the basketball court.
I was the nerdy kid
or
in the
tennis-
library.
I was in the library, sitting in the corner reading my books, and my dad.
That was our
tells that
internet.
story.
For those of you who were not born in a time without the internet, the library was the internet for us.
Right.
That was
Oh,
where
yeah.
all the
It
knowledge
was,
of the
too.
universe was
Yep.
stored, and we'd walk in there and
And
we had to learn this
I
thing
had-
called the Dewey Decimal System.
Dewey Decimal System. Holy
Right,
shit,
right.
No,
I
I, mean,
remember.
I memorized them, and I had access to like 20 different libraries. Why? Because I had the Guthrie Library, I had my school library, I had Mexico City Library, I had the Dallas Library, I had the Oklahoma City Library, and I would go to these places to get the information. I mean, I remember when we had to do our reports, I would read encyclopedias in
Yeah.
order to get the information for the reports.
Encyclopedia
just-
Britannica.
Oh,
Our best
God.
friend every year. Where's
My
the new one?
dream was to
Where's the
have
new
that
one?
That was a good
encyclopedia
idea.
set. I wanted to have that encyclopedia set from A through Z because you bought it from sections, and I had friends who had all the way up to O.
My roommate
But
before I left
they didn't have why.
California.
Where the
All
fuck
the
is
way
the
up to
information on
O.
Zebra?
He had every edition. The first edition, second edition. He had this whole entire library that was the Library Britannica, and he kept it. And I said, "Why are you keeping all this? It's on the internet." He says, "What if the internet crashes?" He says, "The book
Yeah.
is still here. It's real. If I get rid of this book and then the internet crashes, what if no one keeps this book?"
I remember when I was a
Right.
kid, there was a book that I used to read called Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah.
Right? He was a detective and that sort of stuff, and I loved the way that he did it. People used to call me a walking encyclopedia.
They said the same thing about me. They still do.
So, well, actually, they've advanced. My students call me Professor Google.
I would always say to them, "Did you ever see Fahrenheit
Professor
4? What is it? Fahrenheit 451? Is that what it's called, or is Fahrenheit
Yeah.
something? I don't remember the
451.
number.
451.
451, right? Yeah, that's the temperature when paper burns. Fire is at that
Oh.
temperature. It was a book. That's what it's about. And it was they burned all the books, so people became the books. They would read and memorize the book, and then they would hide it from the firemen. The firemen no longer put out fires. They went around and enforced burning everybody's
isn't
books,
that like the-
confiscating them.
We're not that
Isn't
far
that like
away
the
from
Book of
that
Eli?
right now.
The Book of
I mean-
Eli was written in Braille, but he could recite every single word of it.
Yeah,
He
so
had
that was
it
the same
in his-
concept. He became the book.
Exactly.
He became the book. So the movie, the Book of Eli, isn't about the book he's carrying. He became the Book of Eli. So
And
when he
he
got
was
there, he said, "We need
untouchable. He
paper
was
and a
walking the walk."
pencil, and somebody needs to write down what I say." Yeah, and it was the same
Absolutely.
thing. So they would show up to these scribes. These kids would show up, and they would come in and they would say, "Hi, I am," right? "I am Fahrenheit 451," or "I am," and he would list Ray Bradbury books. He used because it was his book, so he was promoting his own books. But he would come. The kid walked in and said, "I am the Illustrated Man."
Did he
That
write
was a
the
book that he
Catcher-
wrote.
Who wrote The Catcher in the Rye?
I don't know that it was a
Oh,
trivia
goddamn, hold
question,
on.
and I saw it, and I don't know. I'm going to look
I
it up
read it.
because
I loved
Is-
it. That was
isn't it,
free flowing
um,
thought. It was really bizarre, but that's
Cough-
actually
uh,
one of
co-
the books that's on the CIA checklist. Whenever you check that
right?
book out or buy that
Holden
book,
Caulfield.
you
Holden Caulfield. Is that what it was? Or Holden?
it sounds familiar. It might be.
Holden Caulfield. I
Because
think. That's
whenever you
it's a
buy
pen
that
name.
book, you become flagged because that's part of the MK Ultra project.
J.D. Salinger. That's
capturing-
it. J.D.
That's what it
Salinger.
is. J.D. Salinger. I just
There
got
you
to
go.
it too.
Brenda
But
Hickerson got it.
didn't J.D. Salinger also write The Great Gatsby?
I think so.
That was F. Scott Fitzgerald,
That's
wasn't
Scott Fitzgerald. You're absolutely right.
Oh, yeah,
You are
you're right.
correct, sir. You're right. That's why Salinger was because of The Catcher in the Rye. All right, that was a wonderful book. Hard to follow because he was going
Yeah.
through time. It was free thought in the book, but
it? That was the
if you
character.
actually,
Yeah, people that don't understand it hate that book because they don't understand it.
but
Yeah.
he's telling it in free flowing thought. It's the way our conscious mind actually goes. We go back and forth the entire time,
Yep.
even in conversations. And
Yep.
people that are used to seeing things structured, okay, I've got my outline. I'm going to do my introduction. I'm going to cover the majority of the things right here. The first sentence of the paragraph tells you what the paragraph is going to define. The first paragraph of the chapter is going to tell you what the entire chapter is about. And everything is structured and everything's linear and everything's structured out and written out. And so when you see somebody going, yeah, I walked into this butcher shop and it reminded me of when I was there and I was 7 and the guy was, but what he's remembering has something to do with what he's about to tell you in the future. But people don't get that because they don't get how the writers are setting things up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I used to love that book because it was a mental exercise just trying to keep up with this guy.
Yeah.
But most
Agreed.
people just get it because they've been MK Ultra, and whenever they want to call somebody in, they buy that book so that their handler can find them and show up. Why? Because it's part of the subconscious program. Why? Because nobody would buy Catcher in the Rye. Nobody's interested in that fucking book.
Yeah, that's no joke
fucking
either.
book.
So people who bought it they would show up with the book, not knowing why they had the book. They bought it. I saw a whole documentary on that, bro. Yeah, that's no joke because that was the one book nobody would buy because no one understood it. Yeah, so
Too
only the
fucking
people
crazy.
so programmed
So only
into
crazy
their mind to go
motherfuckers
and
get
get
to
that
read
book and
Catcher
then
in the
show
Rye.
up. Yeah, that was the trigger for their programming. Was
And
to
I
go
have
and
2
buy that.
copies of it. So how fucking crazy am I?
Well, you're one of those people that weren't programmed, probably, because otherwise you would have showed up somewhere with the book to a handler. Since you haven't, and you have no memory of that, you either did a 20 and back, and you don't remember it, or you never did it.
I usually associate MK Ultra with Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lennon
And
Yeah,
we're
Yeah.
back.
because that's where they were testing it and making sure that it worked. And then we would advance to Las Vegas last year, but that's neither here or a couple of years ago, whatever. And that's also a
Yeah,
trigger
yeah.
word, so we can't mention that anymore. But anyway, yeah, that was all linked to Saudi Arabia. That was so fucking bizarre. Anyway, we're coming up on an hour and 45. How are we doing today?
I think it's time for a small commercial break. No.
We've gone through all the fucking
Great.
topics. I mean, holy shit, we're talking about the Great Gatsby. And remember, that was the 1920s. That's what we're going through in 2000. That's what
Yeah.
we're going through in
Right.
2007. That's the lifestyle that we went through a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we're now on to 38, guys.
Exactly. So the Sacred Awakening, we got on the 15th. I still got to make that minute-long video for you, Aaron. I'm
March
sorry.
19th.
Um,
I don't know. None of us
I've
have made
been-
one, so you're good.
I've been procrastinating, and I apologize for that. I'm not keeping my word. This is on March 19th, the day after my birthday, so shout it out.
Yes.
I personally will be getting into the Pyramid of Maslow and how you can find your own purpose in life and try and work your way towards it, creating your own reality, which goes into what Leo is usually talking about in his Law of One and in his Is Your Reality Holding You Back webinar that we were doing before. And then we got the Sacred Shaman and Norms telling us about more spiritual aspects of our reality and how we can change our consciousness in those ways as well. And we're going to have a couple of other speakers, are we not, Aaron?
Leanne Curtis is going to be the other
Yep.
one. Yes.
Yeah.
And she's an
Absolutely.
artist,
So-
creator, actress. She's going to be teaching about, I think, art or expression through art, how to really express yourself through art. I'm not sure exactly
Yeah, her
how she's doing
her
it.
freehand drawing looks like a
One of-
computer, man.
But see,
She's so
one of
good.
the courses that I took in college, and I never understood why, it was like the art of history, and I guess they had to shove that shit on everybody. It was a required course. It was freshman year and that sort of thing. But it actually ended up being one of the best courses that I took because it taught me about the mindset of the different centuries throughout time and how they viewed the universe and how they found depth in the artwork, how they actually, figured out how to do the things that the eye was seeing and they wanted to recreate. And they saw that it was off and they wanted to perfect it, right? And so it was the evolution of the art, but also the symbolism, because the artist is in control of every single stroke on that canvas. So every single image, every single flag has a meaning and has a symbolism behind it because he consciously put it there for a
and
reason.
mathematical equations. And that's why the Da Vinci Code, and that's why you look at a lot of these artists, they start to realize and unpack the fact that everything they were doing was symmetric or isometric or esoteric. So you have to understand that they were trying to give you a message and tell you an entire story like a book. And that's why they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, because the picture itself, if you look at it in depth and
is 1,000 words.
Is 1,000 words. And if it's not, then the artist made it that way on purpose, because
so
everyone always is.
And so the emperor was standing in front of a crowd of 350 people. He was on the 7th step up on between the columns of the temple, and he had his right arm raised and his left arm inside his tunic, and he was wearing a robe of regal white and red, while the crowd was in their peasantry lifting up their hands in tribute to the growing Caesar.
Yep.
And so that's a lot of fucking words, but if you look at that picture in the Louvre, you look at that picture and you're going, yeah, that's exactly what, they're so it's 1,000 fucking words. When you look at it, you just automatically perceive it.
It's an entire movie or an entire book that you're staring at, and all you have to do is have the ability to unpack it. It's esoteric, and if you understand the way that they wrote that story for you with the visuals, you can look at that picture and unpack that story. But the beauty of it is...
Unpack this story. How about the Capitol Dome? Unpack that story for me.
Oh, okay. So and you look at the dome structures, the domicile structures that we have.
No, I was talking about them deifying Washington and making everybody else saints.
That's kind of what I was going to. Because they understand that the structure that you're actually in has an energy resonance. That's why they've made all of us live in square boxes with a flat roof, because that's the lowest possible resonance of energy that they can force us into. And they work in a place that has big domes, because that domicile has an energy that resonates with the creation of the universe. And it is all of these things that we were just talking about. In the shape of a bell or the shape of a pyramid, all of those structures that we have around the world, that's why they always want to show the churches with the high piercing steeples that look like fractals. And then you have like a look at Russia, St. Petersburg Square and the Basilica, and it's all these structures that are rounded at the top, and the ones that look Asian are from a certain an era. They even name it. We have like Art Deco. We call that here if you have a building that harkens back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that structure of building, we call that Art Deco. There is a time period for all that, and everything has its energy. So what they have done is they've then once again taken the structure in which you live and turned it against you to keep you in a lower vibration, even within the box that you're sleeping.
As David Icke would say, it's an inversion. They've inverted it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right? So truthfully, that's what they've done. And they do that to keep our energy low and keep their energy in a power position to our minds, because they have the dome, and the dome in our brain conjures up the creation, because the spiral would be in the inside of that dome, spiraling around. That's why we use the Liberty Bell, the bell-shaped, Die Glocke. The bell shape has that resonance of energy, and we use that bell for our freedom. The sound of the bell, the shape of the bell. Think about that. Here in America, what is the Liberty Bell is as much a sign of freedom as the Statue of Liberty is, as the American flag is. Why is that? Because the resonance of the bell. Why do you think Taco Bell has a bell sound? Bong, and they show you that they bong the bell. Ring the bell, feed the dog, come and get your food. So they ring the bell, and people go into a trance. And the commercials that are on today, since the Super Bowl, and they leave whatever they were doing, and they go, and they have to go to Taco Bell, and they're sitting there eating it because they heard the sound of the dinner bell. but it was that bell-shaped sound, right? And that summons energy to itself, and that has become the symbol of power, strength, and freedom. And they've taken that away from all of us and forced us to live in these flat, square buildings stacked on top of each other with all this nasty, evil energy to keep us locked into this matrix. It goes all the way back around. And even the forefathers who were, let's go back to the pictures, they understood that was happening then. So they were trying to tell you that story in those pictures. That's why when we look at this artwork and we see artwork and we say, oh my God, that artwork must be priceless. Why do I say that? Because when I looked at it, it's resonating with me and I'm understanding on a subconscious level the story that the artist is trying to tell me, even though consciously, this gets back to what Mike was saying about an hour ago, that the information goes into your subconscious where it's processed. And that's where the subconscious mind already gets it. But it doesn't tell your conscious mind because it doesn't understand that you need it, because the mind is just a construct. So it doesn't have the reasoning and wherewithal to say, hold on, that's important. I need to know that in the forefront, because it's not important in the forefront. You just think it is. Because where it's important is to your higher self, where it's already resonating. You just have to recognize that the information got there and see that it's there. And then you know, because your subconscious is not attached to your conscious to tell the conscious any information, because the conscious, it just runs the body. Your super conscious is in the subconscious and attached to that. So it doesn't need to report to your thoughts. It needs to report to the big guy upstairs, which is you. And then you decide what your brain thinks about what you see. So the body doesn't need to know. The mind, the soul needs to know the information and get it. It's not important for your brain to learn anything other than do your job and tell me, what were you created for? Remember I said that in the beginning? You have to tell your body, what were you created for? Your place in this job is to house this so I can witness this. That's all. Your job is to report to me. Where am I? I am not the subconscious. That's in the background, the liaison between this flesh body and my spirit only. Do you understand? Its job is the interpretive thinker that tells me what it's seeing, and I witness that. And you have to realize that that's where you are. You're the witnesser witnessing this life. You're not this life. Am I right, guys? Was that too far? Was that too much? You guys are muted.
No, that was absolutely perfect. That was something that we haven't.
You guys are all muted. I'm like, you're trying to answer me, and I can't hear you, man.
Sorry, man.
Muted.
Sorry. I had screaming babies in the background, so I had to mute it for a minute. But
No, that's,
right.
I mean, I
that's what
see
it
it
is.
as in this is a. I mean, I kind of look at it as a story. Like you're in your own novel right now.
Yeah.
What do
Right.
you want to do with it? I mean, really, look at
You
us.
were
I mean, look at the
created,
shit
though.
that
You
we're-
are
Right, you
writing
have the
your
ability
own
to go
story.
through your
You
pace.
have to write your own
This-
ending.
Yep.
You have to write your own ending. You have to have a focus on what your ending
Yep.
is, and then work your way back towards to where you are today, so that you can
Right.
walk the walk to be the person that you want to be eventually. Your
Yep.
blue
Yep.
level. It's the Maslow whole thing that we'll deal
Sure.
on March 19th.
Awesome. Yep. Nice way to bring it back. All
Yeah.
right, man.
All
Well, I
right.
think we should finish this one up for tonight. So why don't we go through?
It was a good
the,
one, all. Thank
So,
you much,
guys,
Leo.
tickets
Thank
are on
you,
sale.
Aaron.
Get your
Thank
tickets
you,
on sale.
Norma.
I didn't grab the link for the tickets to put in the chat.
Oh, I know I didn't either. I will.
Yeah,
I'll put it in
we'll
there.
put it in retroactively. We'll pop it up there. I'll
Yeah.
make sure we get it up there.
It will
So you
be
guys-
in the description below.
Yes, we'll
Right.
leave it in the show description. Yep.
Yep. So we'll put it in the description so you guys can come back, click the link, buy the tickets. They're on sale. They're going fast. It's coming up pretty
Yep.
if it's a month away. It's the 19th of March.
Right.
If you guys want to hear what
Less
we've
than
been
a month
talking
away.
about here, but also I'm going to be doing Reiki and I'm going to be leading meditations as well.
Awesome.
Okay. So I'm
Yes.
going to do Reiki and I'm going to give a free Reiki to everyone who wants to
That's
participate.
awesome.
and just bombard your body with all kinds of good, loving, holding energy. But I'm also then going to take that energy before and after and use that energy to show you these things and these techniques, a few of them, to where you can raise your vibration to get to that conscious place where you recognize that you're up here, not inside this body. So, and all of us in some way are going to be doing that on that day specifically more than
Yes.
we talk about here. Here we're giving
We
you
are
tools.
going to take
We're
you on
telling
a
you what to
journey.
read. We're telling you where to find the stuff. We're giving
Yep.
you our opinions on it.
No,
We're
and,
giving
and
you the
also,
tools.
you're
But
buying a ticket.
there,
We're going to be
we're going
working
to
on you.
actually
Yes.
spin your
Yes.
mind up on purpose. You will sometimes by the end of the show, you guys get it and you realize you're vibrating, but by the end of that show,
But
by the
each
end of that
individual
retreat,
will have their own questions, and we
That's
will
right.
be able
Yes.
to address those and go, "Yo, you
Right.
didn't understand
Right.
it? Okay, think about it this way, or think about it this other way."
Right.
Until each individual will come out of there much more enlightened than when they
That's
went
right.
in
Yep.
first.
Well, and you have to realize that people think they like Friedrich Nietzsche. Before he died, he said everything that I have done my entire life was a waste, and that's what he believed. But it wasn't a waste, and the reason it wasn't a waste is he said, I get to this point where there's never any answers. I ask questions and it poses more questions. That's how it works.
Yes.
The answer is
Oh,
you
there's-
within you.
yeah.
There is no external answers. The more you keep looking for answers outside, the less you're going to find, and you're just going to find more questions because the answers are within you.
And that's what we're helping you tap
And that's
into.
what we're helping you do.
And even if you're a master psychic or you're a master, this is for you too. This is not,
Yes.
Yep. You can, everybody, including me, and we will. Every
Yes.
time we go through one of these, it's a very powerful experience,
Yep.
and it is a very enlightening experience, and that energy lasts for a good week.
And it's on the
after, maybe
solstice,
not more.
so it's going to be even more energy
Yep.
coming
Yep.
from the universe as well. So it's not just like now we just picked a day, even though the 2222 thing, right? That was yesterday, 2022, and all that, and people
Right.
were like getting married at 2:22 p.m.
Right.
on 222, right? So there is some magic with that. We talked about
Yes.
that, how that
Yes.
loop is there, and it creates that infinite power, that infinite creation. So the solstice does the same thing.
Yep.
It's one
Yep.
of those chakra points for the cycle of our planet that it goes through.
Right.
And that's one of those places where all the energy focuses and then refocuses and shoots out again. So it's amplified at every one of those points by the chakra point itself. We do that with our bodies as well. And we're going to get more into that when we're there on that retreat. So
Yes.
you guys understand that. But there's a little teeny
Private room.
hint,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
sorry,
More
guys, I was
one-on-one.
talking too much.
Awesome. Well, why don't you, honey? Why don't you let them know where people can find you?
You can find
Your
me
final thoughts.
mostly on Facebook. I guess that's my prominent page, but you can find me on any social media site, really, almost. I mean, not any, I guess. There are some I'm not on, but Google me. You'll find me. Yeah, I do a lot of just basically human work, right? Helping
Google
you
what?
to.
What's your name on
Oh,
there?
yes, I'm Mystic Norms. Ha ha. NORMZ with a Z,
See,
right?
Norma was outside of the construct of her body and had to remind herself. Aaron had to remind her, "What's your name?" Oh yeah, that's right. This body has a name.
Right?
Yep.
I'm
We do it.
actually, yeah, I'm telling me.
She
that's
was up
my
here,
name.
guys, and she had to remember. Oh wait, who am I? That's right. You guys know
Right,
who
right.
I am.
Yeah, yep, Mystic Norms. You can find me just about anywhere, and I tend to cater my services to my clients, so really I can do just about anything you want.
Mike, how about you, brother?
You can find me on Pena Perspective. I'm predominantly on YouTube. I have downloaded. Thank you guys very much for showing me how to do that. And I will be uploading my Q News series, which is live, which I normally can't do on Rumble. But I'm going to be updating my Rumble and my BitChute addresses as well. I'm also on Telegram, though I haven't done much there, but I also intend on updating that. So you can find me in all those places, most predominantly Pena Perspective at YouTube.
Final thought on tonight.
Everybody be at peace. What you perceive of the world is how you interact with it. So make sure that your perceptions are beneficial and loving so that your actions will reflect that.
Awesome. Go ahead, Leo. Or wait, I'll go first and I'll let you close it out because you're.
Okay, go ahead,
All right.
brother.
And my name is Aaron Fowler. You can also known as Aaron Fowler Psychic Shaman. You can find me on YouTube. Find me on Facebook. You can find me on the social networks. Yeah, it's worth the Google. Just Google it up. Mainly, if you want to find me, go to my website at www.psychicshaman333.com. That's a mouthful. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, it's really about how you perceive things. So if you're getting upset at something, take a second and stop and look at it in a different way.
Right.
Try to look at it in somebody else's shoes. If there's somebody that's pissing you off, step in their shoes. I like to call it the mirror. Mirror
Right.
yourself. If you're getting upset with somebody, consider yourself when you're looking at that person you're upset with. Imagine them being a mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
And really go back, reflect, and yeah, and then you will start to, if you're conscious of it and you care,
Right.
you will start to change those things and how you react. And really you'll notice it pretty much almost immediately if you really are
truly
conscious
aware,
of
right.
changing it. So
Right.
much love to all of you. That's the message I have for tonight. And go ahead, Leo, take it away.
Okay, so so this construct is Leonard O'Neill. Right? So this piece of flesh, his name is Leonard O'Neill. You can find me anywhere. I'm on Facebook. I have a page there. I have a group there. I'm on YouTube. I have a channel there. If you listen to the MP3 podcast, you can find me anywhere on any app on this planet that you listen to. I'm already there. And if I'm not, go to podbean.com/Orion Rising, and my RSS number is right there on every episode. Just click an episode, it pulls up. When you're playing the episode, it's right there. It says RSS number. Copy that and take it to your app and paste it into your app. You'll find the place to do that. Some of you already know that. If you have other podcasts that you've added, your podcast provider will put my show on there because I don't want you leaving their app to go and listen to me somewhere else. Everybody is competing.
Yeah.
So all the biggest places, iHeartRadio and all those guys, iTunes, all that Apple Podcast, I'm already there. So if you listen to podcasts there, you'll find me there just by looking up my name. Okay. And then my thoughts for the day is trust yourself. Trust yourself more than you do, and stop competing and having to be right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because no one is right and no one is wrong ever. You
All
just
truths
think
are but
you
half truths.
Be
Right?
open.
All will be
open.
reconciled though.
because
right?
all of our points of view, all of our realities, and all of our beliefs are based on our own point of view.
Our own
Sure.
programming.
Our own
We are
programming.
what we are.
We are what we are. Be aware of that and don't be mad at yourself for
See,
that.
that's why when Moses asked God his name, he says, I am who I am.
I am. I am who I am.
Oh, I
That
forgot
was
to
why
mention
he answered
something.
that.
If you want to be a guest on the show, please send us a message at
Right.
skullislandpc@gmail.com, or just send one of us a message on Facebook.
Right.
We'd love to have
Brenda
guests
will be
on
one
if
of
you have
those who need to
certain.
get on here. I already talked to her about that.
Who's that? What's
Brenda.
that?
Brenda,
Oh,
who's
yeah,
in the
Brenda,
audience.
awesome.
Brenda's going to be one of
Awesome,
those that will
yes.
come on here if we she's like, when there's a couple of them that I got that I
Yeah, we'd love
lining
to
up
have
for.
you on.
Yeah.
Yes, we want more guests. We want more points of
Opinions,
view and
yep.
opinions.
Yep.
That's what this is
Perspectives.
all about, working together. So anyway, much love to all of you. You have a great week. I'll see you back on the interwebs.
Share this out, share
And,
this out, share this out.
Yes.
Yes. Share, share,
Much
share.
love, y'all. Have a great one.